Surprenant.
What's up, San Diego? And a happy Thursday to everybody out there in America's finest city. I'm Braden Surprenant, live in San Diego. He's Frank Marchese, live in Baltimore. Adam Klug running the board today. Lots to talk about today in the sports world. Lots to talk about today on a lot of different things. Most notably, why I am here in San Diego while Frank is live in Baltimore for the Army-Navy game. Well, we had some travels yesterday. I don't even know what day it is. I guess today is Thursday. I got that part right.
Today is Thursday, yes.
Today is Thursday. So what happened yesterday was, as we just might as well just get into it, of why we are now in separate places and why we will be in separate places for the next 2 days.
Do you want to tell your side of the story first, and then I'll give my side?
Yes,
okay.
Of course. So, Frank, you look dapper with the gear. He's got the Army Navy credential already, looking good. Where are you at right now?
This is a serious piece of kit. We're in the Inner Harbor right now. We're set up. This is a temporary place. This is not where we'll be tomorrow. Tomorrow we will be at the big, the proper media row. This is pretty much the travel day from what we've said, from what I've heard.
Yes,
so.
This is usually the travel day. We usually get there early to try to, because they're going to have a welcome thing and all that stuff. And you could go to a concert tonight, Frank, which is great if you wanted to do that. And then tomorrow's going to be the big day. They take you to dinner, all that stuff. It's gonna be fun again on Saturday when they have the game. That's a whole deal. You better go to the march on, by the way. You can't not go to that.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not gonna skip any of the gimmicks. I am going to skip some of the gimmicks tonight because I slept 3 hours on the plane and did not sleep in the hotel. So I'm going to withdraw a little early tonight, but tomorrow and Saturday I'll be all in.
That's probably more sleep than I got. So yesterday we had planned to take the red eye to Baltimore. It was a 7:00 flight to Salt Lake City, and then it was a 11 o'clock flight to something like that to Baltimore. And so as we were getting ready to head down, after the end of the show, I went to practice to do my final practice of the week. And then I headed home. I got all my stuff packed up, and I got my first notification. Your flight's been delayed by 45 minutes, which is fine. That happens every once in a while. We had an hour and 45-minute layover scheduled for Salt Lake City. Like, at 45-minute delay, that's not too bad. And then it started creeping up again. And to our departure time only being around 8:30. Well, the problem with that was we didn't get on the plane until about 8:30.
Yeah.
And when we finally got on the plane, we even got hit with something else.
Alaska Airlines, you guys got to fix your stuff here.
Yeah, apparently. So to make things worse, as we get ready to taxi out, and still have time to make the connecting flight. As we're about to taxi out, Alaska Airlines has a jet break down right behind us at San Diego's airport.
Mm-hmm.
So the pilot comes on the intercom and goes, we'd love to get going and get everything going and get you to Salt Lake, but Alaska Airlines has had a little bit of a malfunction, and they're blocking our exit to get out of here. So once that gets cleared up, we are able to get moving after a couple other flights clear out of there because there's now not a pileup, but there is a long list to get through. So they finally get out. We taxi out, and we take off. And I'm looking at the time of arrival to when the plane is going to depart in Salt Lake City. And I already know it's going to be a little bit
razor thin.
It's going to be close.
The Salt Lake flight was scheduled to depart at 11:57 was when we were supposed to leave. And that was with a delay. Salt Lake. Yes.
And so it's 11:57. We're supposed to land at 11:47. The gates close 10 minutes before they take off. So as we're flying, I'm like, all right, this is going to be close. We take off. I still have internet on my phone because I logged into Wi-Fi. Frank did not.
This is where I'll let you uninterrupted go, and then I'll go. I'll pick it up from when we get on the plane.
We get into the air and we're heading to Salt Lake. Now, here's the thing with our travel plans. They were booked through a travel agency run by USAA. I got an email from Delta and then an email from the travel agency while on the plane. Now, The first email I got was from Delta, and Delta said, "We're sorry you missed your connection. Here's your new itinerary." And I was like, well, I guess I'm not going to make the connection in Salt Lake. They already said, and I'm looking, and my flights are now different. Now it's a flight to Atlanta and then Atlanta to Baltimore for today on Thursday, not the overnight flight. And so my flight has already been changed. So I'm like, all right, well, I guess Delta's pretty proactive about this. And I'm texting Frank like, hey, we got to figure out what we want to do tomorrow because we're not going to be able to do our show because we're supposed to land in Baltimore at 4:00. Our show starts at 1:00 in Baltimore on the East Coast. And we got to get a hold of Adam, and I can't get a hold of Adam because he's got a Droid, so the Wi-Fi doesn't work. I thought about emailing him late at night. I didn't know if he was going to see it directly. So I'm dealing with, and Delta sends me like, oh, we're sorry. Here's a free hotel stay. Here's a free meal. And I'm like, all right, well, I got to be on this before we land so I know what's going on in Salt Lake, so we're not sitting there, I knew that our flight the next day was going to be early in the morning. So I'm getting proactive, and I'm starting to put into place everything I need to get done before we land in Salt Lake. So I already have new tickets. Again, I don't know why changed and yours didn't, but then I kind of found that out again this morning. So I don't have it when we land in Salt Lake City. I don't have a ticket anymore to the flight to Baltimore at 11:57. So even if I sprinted to the spot, I still wouldn't be able to get on the plane because I no longer have a ticket because Delta had already flipped my tickets to Thursday's flight to Baltimore. So I get off the plane. I'm like, well, I'm not going to sprint down there. I don't have a ticket for this flight anymore, and I don't even know if it's there. So I go to the bathroom, and then I go straight to the kiosk. And I go, okay, well, let's figure this out. So I go to the kiosk, and they're like, you coming off from San Diego? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah. They're like, all right, let's get everything set up for your new flight. And then I was like, okay. I go, what are we going to, I was like, well, I can't, it doesn't make sense for me to go to Baltimore anymore, which that confused them. They had no idea why. And I was like, I need the next flight back to San Diego. And so I'm trying to explain it to them, and they're like, okay. And then meanwhile, Frank's like, I made it on the plane. And I'm like, oh, well, they're still here? They're supposed to have already left. They didn't leave because they had to change planes because the plane that flight to Baltimore was supposed to be malfunctioned. And so they got on a new plane. Frank makes it like 2 seconds before they close the gate, and he starts to taxi out. Meanwhile, as I try to flip my flight to San Diego, they're like, oh, we can't do this. Your flight's still here. You can still make it. And I said, no, I can't. It's already starting to leave, and it's already left. And they're like, no, it says it's here. And I said, I know somebody on that plane. It is already left. Plus, you already got rid of my ticket. I don't have a ticket on here anymore. And they're like, well, we can't change this now for free because you could have made it. I'm like, all right, well, you didn't really set me up for success there. So it cost me like $30 to change the flight, whatever. I was like, I have funds. Just, you know what? You chalk it up to the game. So it took them forever because they could not flip it until your plane physically took off. So I had to sit there. And so they go and they're like, okay, you're all booked for San Diego tomorrow. Sure you don't want to go to Baltimore? I said, I'm sure I don't want to go to Baltimore at this point in time. So I take it. They're like, all right, you have to bring this to the gate tomorrow and ask for you're booked on the plane, but you don't have a seat until you bring it to the gate tomorrow. So I Uber to the hotel, which is a mile away. I probably take like a two and a half hour nap. And then I get up again at like 5 a.m., get back on the airport shuttle, go back to the airport. And then I go through, and as I'm getting my seat, the lady at Delta was like, oh, yeah, this happens sometimes with our computer system. It's so proactive that it'll just automatically start doing things to overcome, complaining lines and everything like that. And I was like, oh, thanks. Appreciate it. But she helped me out. She was very nice. She was like, hey, it sounds like you've had a really long night. Let's get you gave me a row to myself in the exit row, had the middle seat open. And so I got to fly back and everything was good from there. But again, I had Adam called last night and he's like, how did you not contact Frank? I was like, I haven't seen Frank since we left San Diego. I tried to text them. I didn't get a response except for that landing was rough, and then I'm on the plane. That's all I got from Frank on those texts that I sent, because he wasn't getting them until after he had already got on the new flight. And so Frank was able to make it to Baltimore. Somebody had to do the show, but also it wouldn't have made sense based on what my schedule was for itinerary to fly out to Baltimore. So I'm back here, and I made it. We got here super fast, no delays. We beat the time by 25 minutes. I got home. I was able to shower, get my car, get to work on time. Everything is normal. We worked out everything that's going to be the case for tomorrow's show with guests and everything like that. We still got the coverage with Frank out there in Baltimore. And again, I'm glad that Frank got to make it. I've been to Army Navy 3 times now. Every time it's a blast. They want us to come again next year. They've already said it. They're very, they're sad that I couldn't make it out there, which is fine. I totally appreciate it. But you know what? I'm glad you got to make it, because you're going to have a great time out there in Baltimore. Now, what were you doing during the flight? I thought you were passed out because I couldn't get any response out of you on the phone.
No, I screwed up the Wi-Fi. I didn't get signed on to the Wi-Fi properly. So I didn't get the emails. I didn't get the text. All I'm doing is I'm looking at the flight to see when we're going to get there. So I am now in rush mode. I have to get off of this plane as fast as humanly possible to get to the next gate. And of course, our gate was gate 16. The Baltimore flight was at gate 38. Clear across the other side of the terminal. So the entire time over there, I'm cursing, why are planes so bleeping wide? Because this is unnecessary how far I have to run. We land. I know you're in first class and I'm in the back. So I know you're getting off first. I get out, and I must have gotten out while you were in the bathroom, because you were wearing a bright blue hoodie. If I miss that hoodie, I'm blind. I didn't see you, so I asked the gate attendant, do I have a chance? Do I have a shot? She looks at her watch and goes, if you hurry, you just might. That's all I needed. Boom. I'm out. I am running to the gate. I get there. I'm huffing. I am sucking wind. And I finally get there. I'm getting closer. I'm seeing people there. So I'm like, oh, thank God. People are there, which means they haven't boarded the plane yet. I get on. I am the second to last person to get on the plane before they close the doors. And I am off. I text you. Of course, I text my parents. I made it. I don't know how, but I made it. And then I get the text from you oh, I'm switching my flights. I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. I told you earlier in the day, based off of my luck, I told you should have taken a different flight.
I should have.
And that's exactly what happened.
I don't blame Alaska Airlines. I blame you for being on the same plane as me.
The entire 2-hour layover that we had in Salt Lake City was taken up by the plane needing repairs in Salt Lake City before it came to San Diego. And then the Alaska Airlines thing taking up a half hour. That ate up the entirety of our layover time. And it was a dead sprint from one end of the terminal all the way to the other. And that was hectic. I was upset that you didn't get it, that you didn't get there. I knew. I had texted Adam. He had called me trying to figure out what the heck happened. And as we took off, I was just so done with the day. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I know I'm not in trouble, but I feel like we did something. There was something is wrong here. It was just a long day made even longer. And now I am sitting in Baltimore while you were at home.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm glad you made it. I was because what I thought was going to happen as all of that was handing down was I thought you, Frank, we're going to have to fly all day today to Atlanta and then Baltimore while I do the show in San Diego. But you were able to make it there, which is great. We got everything worked out in terms of our coverage of Army and Navy, which is going to be great. You're going to have a great time throughout the afternoon tomorrow and, of course, today, maybe later on this evening. We got the update from Nick DiNucci where you can and cannot walk in Baltimore, so that should be a fun time. But
I'm not walking anywhere tonight. I am going to sleep tonight.
Yeah,
that is exactly what I'm doing.
I already told Adam I'll probably crash out at like 3, 4 o'clock. I'll probably pass out at this point in time with the lack of sleep that I've had.
I do not blame you at all. But honestly, I mean, that was because the reason why I'm here is because I didn't get those emails because I thought I still had a chance to get here. So I just booked it and I knew I had a backup if the plane wasn't there anymore. So my first thought was to find you, didn't see you, and then I just booked it.
No, you gotta go. Gotta go. I could have been on the flight.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't know idea. You might have had a head start. You might have known that you could get there. You might have known it was here. So you might have started going that way already. I was playing catch up. So I think knowing I had a backup plan of hotel, food, get here tomorrow, I knew it was just straight go to the terminal.
It's fun to travel, isn't it? Always fun to travel. I mean, I would highly recommend to most people, don't fly to a city to take a 3-hour nap and fly home. It's not really rewarding at all. I mean, I basically spent most time on the plane and at an airport and going through security than I did doing anything else. And the other thing too is I was just in Salt Lake City. I was having massive deja vu of being there 3 weeks ago. But as Adam said last night on the phone, what a nightmare. And that's exactly what that trip was. Yep. I'm glad you made it. We got to get rolling here on the show. We got a lot to get to. We'll probably tell a little bit more stories later on in the show. We got a Padre that is now an Atlanta Brave. We'll talk about that a little bit later. What can we pull in from the winter meetings? There's a lot of news and updates that have kind of trickled through of what the Padres' plans might be in that sort of sense. We got the Sheronne Moore situation that got from like funny memes to very serious very quickly. That we'll talk about as well. So we got a lot to get to here on the Braden Surprenant Show. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. Just getting started on a Thursday. San Diego's #1 sports station 97.3 The Fan.
I'm dead.
August 97th to the Fan. Join us on the David P. Shapiro Fan Hotline. David P. Shapiro, criminal defense attorneys helping good people regain control of their future when charged with a crime since 2010. Visit davidpshapirolaw.com. I do want to get to some news that is just has been put out there by Jeff Passan that was reported on the morning show. Closer Robert Suarez and the Atlanta Braves are in agreement on a 3-year, $45 million contract. Sources tell ESPN. Now, as much as this is breaking news, I don't think this is very shocking news for a lot of Padres fans. It might be for a lot of people in the YouTube chat. There were some people in the YouTube chat that were like, oh, I can't keep any of their guys. I didn't think Robert Suarez was going to be a Padre as soon as he opted out. I don't think the Padres are going to offer him anything. When they have an inability to potentially pay for starting pitching, they don't have the luxury to pay $15 million to a guy that closes games, not when you have a guy like Mason Miller sitting there in the bullpen ready to go, and having other players like Jeremiah Estrada and like having, guys like Jason Adam who's going to be back eventually next season. And they just loaded up on more bullpen arms. And guess what all those guys do? They all throw close to 100, if not 100 miles an hour. So he goes to Atlanta, their setup guy. Raisel Iglesias is still going to be the closer, according to reports involving the Atlanta Braves. The Braves get a bullpen arm. I think it's good for Atlanta. But to be honest with you, I'm not really going to lose too much sleep over Robert Suarez not being a Padre, Frank.
No, we expected him to days in the National League. It's fine. You guys had a really good record against the Braves last year. But this really can't come as too much of a surprise that he's not going to be on the Padre roster next year, because this is more or less what we were expecting and anticipating coming into this offseason.
What Jeff Passan then said, between Robert Suarez and Raisel Iglesias, Atlanta now has 2 of the 5 relievers with the most saves of the last 2 seasons. With a healthy Chris Sale, Spencer Schwellenbach, and Spencer Strider, plus a full season of Hurston Waldrop, their pitching could take a huge leap, something that Atlanta definitely is needed. Now for the Padres, again, I don't think he was part of the plans. I don't think they were really asking for, to potentially bring him back. Would it be nice to have Robert Suarez on the team? Probably. But when you are at the budget that you have currently, Robert Suarez is a luxury that you cannot afford at $15 million a year. And you know what? Good for Robert Suarez. He gets an additional $5 million a year on a 3-year deal. He's getting up there in age. I mean, this is kind of like his last opportunity to potentially cash in on a contract. So I wish him the best. But here's what I have to say about some of the, players that have done well in a Padres uniform when they walk away and the Padres don't necessarily get, we don't know if they give an offer or not. I highly doubt it. But sometimes you have to say thank you for the memories. I said the same thing about Gary Sanchez when he got picked up off weight. They claimed him off weight, DFA'd by the Yankees. They needed a catcher. He went out there and, he raked. He had a lot of home runs. It was finally some type of offensive production for the catching position for the Padres. But at the end of the season, people wanted to give him like $10 million to stay. No, thank you. Thank you for the memories. See ya. You could do that with a lot of players. Now, there's been a couple of players that I think the Padres probably should have brought back that had the ability to bring back, I would say. But you know what? As much as we talk about how this team needed to make some changes and needed to improve in other areas, we still find ourselves, Frank, talking about, people being like, we got to bring all these guys back. Well, if you're bringing everybody back from last year, you're not really making a lot of changes.
No, and you're not fixing many of the problems that had happened. And we had talked about it going throughout last year, that how would 2025 Robert Suarez do at the end of the season based off of how 2024 Robert Suarez did? And again, it was more or less, you started relying on Mason Miller more and more and more as the season went on. And as you got deeper into the season, as you got into the playoffs, it was Mason Miller was that late inning guy. So you were already kind of phasing Robert Suarez out there towards the end. And you're right. It's one of those deals where he pitched great here, but with the team needs and with what Suarez was expected to get, you couldn't justify spending that much money on an extra commodity, which is what he would have been this year.
Yeah, when you have a major need for starting pitching, and starting pitching costs you $15 to $20 million a year per player, you can't be burning in a bullpen arms when you know you can go get. I mean, there's like 100 arms right now in the that are relievers that are ready to sign with a lot of different teams. So I don't think it's that big of a. I mean, thanks for the memories. Robert Suarez led the team in saves, led the league in saves. Has been a high saves guy over the last handful of seasons. I mean, what another great find by AJ Preller, getting him overseas, right? I mean, the story that Robert Suarez was, and remember Robert Suarez's first outing. Remember how much of a disaster that was on that opening day in Arizona, where he gets fed to the wolves and ends up coughing up the game, and you're like, oh man, I don't know what we could do with this guy. But he ended up having a great Padres career. I would imagine he's probably finishing his career in Atlanta. I mean,
he's not young.
He's 35 years old next year. He's going to be 35 years old. He's going to be signed under contract for the next 3 years. I mean, is he going to pitch until he's 40? Is he going to be able to throw 100 miles an hour until he's 40? He's a one-pitch guy. I mean, he didn't really rely on any other secondary pitches, and you got a guy like Mason Miller. Now, whether or not they trade Mason Miller remains to be seen, but it didn't sound like they're going to really pull from the strength of the bullpen to help starting pitching. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that as the show goes on. I mean, just because the winter meetings are over doesn't mean the Padres are not primed to make a move or make any type of massive decision. But the biggest news today, of course, the biggest signing that involves San Diego is Robert Suarez is now at the Atlanta Braves. You're going to have to deal with them in the National League, but you know what? You're not dealing with them in the National League West. So, again, it's one of those thanks for the memories kind of moves right there. You're not overly. I wouldn't be overly upset, Padres fans, that Robert Suarez is not a Padre, because I didn't really see it truly happening. And I don't even think he was on the radar for a lot of. I mean, when you see all the rumors around the Padres with the winter meetings, there was nothing about like, oh, they've checked in on Robert Suarez. But I'll be interested to see what they decide to do and what's happening at post winter meetings. And there's some information that has been reported in the winners and losers of the winter meetings. And in this article written by a handful of different journalists for ESPN, they got some nuggets about who could be moving, who might not be moving, who is kicking the tires on so. And there's some big names on there that need to be discussed, as well as how do you evaluate the big signings of the winter meetings. We heard Frank's opinion on the whole Pete Alonso thing. I don't know, ecstatic for Pete Alonso when you landed. Have you been able to take it in of the Baltimore Orioles?
No, I have not. I've gone into the hotel. I have been escorted over to where we are, and that's about it. So no, I have not.
Hey, Bert. Well, I knew you were going to get the hotel room with the view of Camden Yards. I just need the billboard to go up before you leave.
It's not the field side.
It's okay.
For those of you who saw the picture, I've got M&T Bank Stadium off to my right, and then I've got the big brick, the big convention center that you can see out behind right field. I've got that outside my window also.
We'll talk about the biggest winners and losers of the MLB winter meetings, but also there are some big names that are available in the trade market as laid out by a handful of the insiders on ESPN. We'll tell you who those big names are. They fit for the Padres when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, Settings number one sports station 97.3 The Fan. Live from San Diego, the Braden Surprenant Show. Also live from Baltimore today. Frank Marchese, live in Baltimore. He is there to cover the Army-Navy game. A little bit of a travel fiasco for myself the last 24 hours. I can't wait to go to sleep. I'm going to tell you that right now. I forget that Salt Lake's on Mountain Time, too. So I was up earlier than I probably had originally thought. So I think I have I'm running on 3 hours of sleep. Not even that, because do you ever have to wake up early in the morning? And so you just keep waking up thinking the alarm's going to go off and you don't really get sleep. That was me last night in this hotel room I got.
and then right at the moment when you roll over and get comfortable and finally like rest and relax, that's when your alarm actually does go off.
You know what I kept doing? I kept waking up and going, oh, I have 2 hours I can still sleep. Oh, I have an hour and a half I can still sleep. Oh, I still have an hour I can sleep. And then after I looked, because I was going to get up at 5:45, go down, take the 6 o'clock shuttle because I was right next to the airport. And instead, I decided to just be up at 5 o'clock, and then I just dilly-dallied in my hotel and waited in the lobby for the shuttle, and, the rest is history.
I got a very nice drive to the hotel here in Baltimore.
Yeah, the nice little driver name on the side.
Yeah, it was very nice. And it reminded me that there really is, it's East Coast cities are really like no other. They all look and feel almost exactly the same.
They kind of do in the time, because for the Army Navy game, I've gone to New York, I've gone to Boston, I've gone to Philly. Next year it's back in New York. So might have to, hopefully have better travel plans for that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're all kind of the brick buildings, the old, the nostalgia of the oldness of the buildings and stuff like that. All pretty cool stuff.
You got the infrastructure of like old foundries, and there's a bunch of smokestacks up here that are.
Yeah, all the streets are designed for like horse and buggy and not like automobiles and all that fun stuff.
Yep. I'll tell you, I did get like a throwback, just smelling the leather of the car and driving, just sitting there getting driven. It was almost like being back in my grandfather's car when he would pick us up from the airport when we would come out there. So that was unexpected and really
little trip down memory lane for Frank. Let's take a trip down memory lane of the winter meetings the last couple of days and assign some winners and losers, but also in an article by ESPN, it was one of those roundtables that they do where they have a bunch of different insight from reporters from around the country that all work for ESPN, laying into what they have heard, what's on the rumor mill, and other names that might be available via trade. Now, let's talk about the winners and losers of the MLB winter meetings. They laid out a couple of names. I think I tend to agree with them. I mean, I would say the three biggest winners off the top of my head, without even looking at what they said, would be the Dodgers, Phillies, and Blue Jays. You guys dive deeper, they agreed the Dodgers, the Phillies, and the Blue Jays are at the MLB trade deadline. Getting Edwin Diaz for the Dodgers, again, they just got another big closer to add to all their other closers and spending all this money. Phillies keeping Kyle Schwarber, I think, was huge for them. They needed to do that. And then the Blue Jays, they've been aggressive. They've gotten a taste of being in the World Series, and they are getting aggressive. They went and got Dylan Cease. They're making other signings. They're spending the money. It's not that they're just offering, because they've done that in the past, but they're actually getting some high-level free agents to sign with them. And I think they're massive winners. Anybody out of that name that you also think is a winner for the winter meetings?
No, I mean, I think those are the three teams that were the most active, and those are the three teams that got the biggest names. I think we can skip over the biggest loser. I think we all know who that is. But yeah, the Dodgers got better. They got stronger, which is scary to think. The Phillies got one of their guys back. Now their focus is turning to JT Realmuto. They also want to keep Ranger Suarez around as you would. And then Toronto getting, I mean, before the winter meetings, getting Dylan Cease. I mean, that's a big signing as well. And I would also have to say, like I said, I told you when it came down to the Schwarber signing, you scoffed at the idea that Baltimore was a big spender. You thought that Baltimore was just throwing money out there just to say, hey, look, we tried. And then you saw what happened in day 3 is they got that big money signing for about the same cost that it would have cost to get Kyle Schwarber. So I would say Baltimore also a big winner out of the winter meetings.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Baltimore is a winner. They were able to get Pete Alonso, right? They were able to add other pieces. Ryan Helsley, another. I mean, they're able to go get arms that they needed, but also some big time. And they're not done. That's the other thing that makes them kind of a winner here is they're not done. And Birdland's getting excited out there. I'm sure you'll start seeing it. And we'll see what happens with the Ravens this weekend. See if they if they keep the purple out or they go back to the black and orange for baseball season. Spring might be a little bit earlier than normal in Baltimore with the way that they've been spending money. So I do agree with that. The biggest loser, obviously, is the New York Mets. We talked a lot about them yesterday. They missed out on Kyle Schwarber on an opportunity. They lost Edwin Diaz. They lost Pete Alonso. They traded Brandon Nimmo before the winter meetings. I mean, if you rope that in there, you have yourself a furious fan base, as we have all experienced watching Frank mini crash out yesterday after the Pete Alonso news. A furious fan base, a front office that is starting to reshape the franchise, and then some rumors and conversations about Lindor and Juan Soto in the clubhouse, and Lindor wants out and he wants a trade. I mean, there's a lot of problems with the New York Mets. I don't want to spend too much time on them. They're obviously the biggest loser of their winter meetings. I mean, they got money to spend. They could go save themselves by making some plays here. But, I mean, I think it's going to be hard for the New York Mets to overcome what has happened so far in the offseason. Now, other potential losers at the winter meetings, like I view the Reds as kind of a loser, but not really. Like, did anybody actually think the Reds had a fighting chance to get Kyle Schwarber to come home? No. I don't think anybody had it. I don't think anybody honestly believed that Kyle Schwarber was going to be a Cincinnati Red. So if you think, and this is what the article laid out, they think like the Reds fumbled hometown Schwarber, and maybe it was their only shot to get an elite slugger. To me, that's just, let's just not all have the same answer to the New York Mets. Let's throw somebody else in there. Cincinnati Reds, just, I guess. They were never going to get Kyle Schwarber, though. So is it even easy to say, like, they're a big loser when they failed to spend, when we expected them to fail to spend? And that's why I can't even put the Pirates in there as a loser, because, again, to me, they're just, hey, look, fans, look, we're trying. They didn't want to sign here. Sorry, we tried our best. That kind of makes you a loser a little bit, but to me, it's the Mets and there's nobody else.
I would agree with that. I swear I'm not doing this because everyone is the Mets, but would you consider, just based off of how much rumor and how much speculation and the article that came out on Tuesday, could you consider the Padres being a loser in this with how much amped up everybody got around them and how much of flurry there was and nothing come out of it?
No, not really. And here's why, because I think this is just every winter meetings for AJ Preller.
No, I agree.
And as it was laid out, I mean, he said it, 99% of what we come up with doesn't come to fruition. I don't think the Padres were in a situation in which they had to get a deal done by the winter meetings or their host. I didn't think that was going to be the case. I thought if they do something, it'd be via trade. And when it comes to trades, it's more than just you. Like, if they're in the sweepstakes to say, we're going to make a big splash in the free agent market, we're going to go sign somebody big, we have the money to spend. If they had the money to spend and they came up empty at the winter meetings and they were in on Pete Alonso and they were in on Kyle Schwarber and they were in on and they were in on Dylan Cease and they were in on, like, just say Robert Suarez. If that was the case and they came up empty, yes, I would say they were a loser at the winter meetings, but they weren't in on any of these guys, at least not reported. Yeah. I'm sure AJ Preller did his due diligence and made some phone calls like he always does. But I think if they were in the situation that they were a couple of years ago when they ended up signing Xander and they were unable to sign Xander, they came up empty at home at the winter meetings and they toured Petco. They gave Aaron Judge a tour of Petco Park, and they did the same thing with Trey Turner, and they had to get somebody. That to me is a loser of the winter meetings. But when you're a team like the Padres and you are kicking the tires and you're throwing a lot of different ideas out there and you're trying to take maybe some starter or maybe some big leaguers to trade for prospects to then flip for other big leaguers to try to get more control over them. When you're trying to work a lot of different situations and scenarios, it's kind of hard to cash in on one of those things. I think if they would have made one trade, they would have been a winner. I think if they would have made one trade, they would have been a winner. Right now, they're kind of in the middle. Not everybody's a winner / a loser. There's a lot of teams that were just in the middle. I mean, I would say, like, you could talk about, what about the Giants? I mean, the Giants haven't done anything in 3 years.
Yeah,
They
were
won.
just
I mean,
silent.
they won the trade deadline, but they haven't done anything either.
Obviously, I mean, we know that for a fact. But the only reason why I said I threw the Padres out there as a possible loser is because of how much the whole winter meeting seemed to be focused on them, whether it was the rumors, whether it be there was all these trades and everything that how much we saw of AJ Preller and we saw AJ Cassavell on, we saw Craig Stammen was there. There was so much hubbub and hoopla around the Padres over the winter meetings and nothing came of it. I totally agree that you can't just call them a loser because they didn't get something done, but it's just so much expectation and nothing to come of it. That's the only reason why I threw it out there.
Teams that are under the most pressure now after the winter meetings, I would probably say the New York Mets. I would probably say that they're probably under the most pressure right now. And to be honest with you, but the Yankees are probably not too far behind, being another team that's like, they got the money. Why aren't you spending it? Where are we at as a organization when we can't even hang with the Los Angeles Dodgers on the other coast? I don't think the Blue Jays are under a lot of pressure, but I guess the pressure comes with how much they've spent. Like now they got to go perform. I mean, they went out. Yeah. You can't be the team that wins the offseason. So with that, I think comes with a little bit of pressure. And the last team is, I don't really think the Reds are under that much pressure, but they have this young core of players that they have now had under control for a couple of years now. Their inability to sign a big free agent, their inability to really take that next step. I mean, their division is wide open right now, depending on what the Cubs and the Brewers do. St. Louis isn't going to be competing this season. Pittsburgh never is competing. Reds are right there on the cusp. They might have some pressure to go out there and make a big splash, as the offseason continues.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, you have the one that's at biggest risk right now is Ellie De La Cruz because he's been there the longest. Matt McLean has come up. I believe this is going to be his second or third full year for Matt McLean. You have Sal Stewart, who just came up last year, made his debut last year. Hunter Green, we discussed earlier in the week. So Spencer Steer is another one of those young guys, is a big power hitter for them. So, I mean, there are Cincinnati, their window is open right now. And if there's a time where they are going to overpay for somebody to try to get some form of forward momentum going with this young core, I believe it would be now. So yeah, I would totally believe a big that has some something to prove over this offseason.
As we dive into recapping what happened at the winter meetings, and today's a big day for that, there's a lot of questions that need to be asked about certain teams that we've just talked about. And we're going to answer some of those questions in the 11 o'clock hour. The other thing, too, is there are some big names available via trade now. There are a lot of big names available via trade at second base. That lists Padres' Jake Cronenworth. The Texas Rangers are listening on even shedding more payroll. I don't know who's going to take the contract of Corey Seager, but they're listening on Corey Seager. What would require that overwhelming return? And then, of course, like the biggest thing and the biggest trade conversation this offseason is about Tarik Skubal. Mm-hmm. And the latest information on Tarik Skubal is a trade is likely. A trade is likely. I don't know how a trade for Tarik Skubal becomes likely. Yes, there are teams that probably want Tarik Skubal really bad. But at the same time, and I'm going to tell you, like, there's some rumblings about what could potentially be traded for Tarik Skubal and who's interested. I mean, obviously, we got the reports earlier this week. A lot of people didn't want to look into him too much, but we did have national writers talking about the Los Angeles Dodgers trying to make a Tarik Skubal trade. I mean, if you're anybody that's trying to trade for Tarik Skubal, he is a Scott Boras client, and he's got 1 year left. there is no guarantee that you're going to be able to get that contract extension before you trade for him. I know a lot of teams have been working on that, but to try to get a Tyler Glasnow type trade that the Dodgers pulled off when they acquired him from Tampa, where they're going to sign him to a contract and then trade, I find it to be very unlikely. But there is some more information on the Tarek Skubal trade market, the big second baseman that might be available, and a former Padres farmhand that is now likely to be traded from another team. We'll talk about that when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, Standings Over Sports Station, 97.3 The Fan. 11 o'clock, Braden Surprenant Show, live in San Diego. Frank Marchese live in Baltimore for Army-Navy. We'll have a full Army-Navy level show in college football tomorrow. Should be a fun time from 10 to 2. Frank's going to be running all over the place tomorrow. Enjoy your free lunch tomorrow, too, by the way. It's usually a good time.
Oh, thank you.
I know you got a little bit of a swag bag, too, also. Always get it.
Yes, very, very nice.
We'll be showing off that gear tomorrow as well.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was going to.
You have a beanie. You have a beanie right there in front of you, don't you?
Well, I had, it's a little perturbed right now. There we are. There's your
Army-Navy beanie.
Yes. Probably be wearing that at some point here later today. I'm a little perturbed right now. We had our producer, Justin, on this end, has swapped over and has left me with a Philadelphia Eagles fan. So this
even
is
better.
This is going great right now.
That's awesome.
Adam,
ask him to spell Eagles for us.
Yeah. Adam, can you play the Adam, can you play the thing on our hotkey thing, please? Would you mind?
He's got to find it. He doesn't know where it's at. Where did you
leave
it?
It's right on. It's on the bottom row of our hotkey page.
At least he can spell better than the mayor of Philly, man. That's great. I'd love to see it. That's awesome.
Well,
That's awesome. We're going to talk a little bit more in the at 11:15 about some of the stuff that was mentioned on Ben and Woods about the Padres and about Frank Marchese's New York Mets. Some interesting stuff. And there's a lot of smoke to a lot of different things right now. And we're going to talk about one of them in particular. I mean, here's a couple of the nuggets that we want to get to before we talk solely on, I think, the Padres on their second baseman. But they said a Tarek Skubal trade is likely. I mean, Alden Gonzalez even mentioned that maybe Tyler Glasnow could be involved with the trade to Detroit to get Tarek Skubal. I don't know why that makes any sense. You're signing up. If you're the Tigers, you're getting rid of the best pitcher in baseball. Arguably, if you want to give me a list of 5 great pitchers, sure. He's one of those 5. I know he's under a contract for only 1 more year. You are a contending team. You are playing you have a chance at a World Series when you have this guy. Why would you give him up at $17 million a year for a guy in Glass now you're going to have to pay for the next 2 years at $1 million a year, knowing that he's probably not going to make it through the entire season because he hasn't done it yet in his career. At least it doesn't seem like it. I'd probably have to go back and really dive into those, but I feel like that he's very injury prone. So Glasnow and prospects, that's what you're going to get for Tarek Skubal. And then if you're the Dodgers, you better guarantee that like Tarek Skubal is the guy that's going to sign a contract extension. Otherwise, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, we talked about Tarek Skubal. Rangers listening on Corey Seager. Texas is not shopping him, but they're listening. Everybody's listening on everybody. I don't really want to spend too much time on this. $186 million remaining on his contract. He's still an elite player at age 31. Rangers are facing a payroll crunch after moving Marcus Semien. I mean, if they trade Corey Seager, I don't know what people are going to go watch in Texas. And on top of that, it's like, I don't know. Who's going to be trading for a guy like Corey Seager with the contract he has? Maybe people will. Maybe teams are interested in that. But like the listening thing, I can't start looking at listening yet when it comes to Texas Rangers. I say it's about a 35% chance, not even that. I give like a 10% chance that Corey Seager is not playing for the Texas Rangers.
I would have to think he's going to stay there. But to go back to the Skubal and Glasnow thing, you're going to double your payroll by paying $30 million for Glasnow for 2 years, but you can't afford to sign
Tarek Skubal.
Tarek Skubal. I mean, that to me, that just straight up on its own doesn't make sense. But then, I mean, that was the report that we had heard, or we'd seen over the week at the beginning of the week, was that Skubal, that the deal was done. They were just waiting for the approval on the owner's side. The local
news guy reporting that stuff.
That it was already done. They were just waiting on the approval from the Tigers management, and they were waiting on a contract extension on Tarek Skubal.
Well, so, let me ask this question.
in a world where that is actually accurate, that's ridiculous.
Let me ask you this question. Let's say that is true. They're waiting for owner approval. All of the owner, what are we getting held up on baseball in 2027? What's the big thing that's holding everybody up in baseball is what?
It's
the salary cap.
Yeah.
They want a salary cap. And why does everybody in baseball want a salary cap and a lot of the big teams want a salary floor? Why is that?
So it's more competitive.
Yeah, but also so the Dodgers can't go buy everybody, right?
Yeah,
they
exactly.
can't go make an all-star team. So if all the owners are like that, I mean, there needs to be a point where, like, you're the Tigers owner or whoever family owns the Tigers should, like, you know what? Why are we doing this? Yeah, why are we playing into their hand by giving them somebody else unless they're so enamored by their prospects that they have? It doesn't make any sense to me.
No,
from a Tiger standpoint. The Tigers are in a big market. How can the Tigers, with what they have in Detroit, a major city in the Midwest, a major market with multiple sports teams, how do they not have the money to keep Tarek Skubal? I don't understand.
I really don't think it's a question of money. It's the will. Do you have the will to fight and have this team continue to fight, especially when you see the team that wins the American League Central every single season, the Guardians, with a $100 million payroll or less. So, I mean, it's why would you go out there if you could win the division, you could be in the playoffs every year and still somewhat have a reasonable salary? I mean, why would you go out and do it?
Let's talk about one more piece, and then I want to get to the second baseman. Former Padres farmhand, Mackenzie Gore.
Mm-hmm.
Mackenzie Gore with the Nationals. He's done fairly well. He hasn't been a dominant pitcher, but he's been a really good pitcher. He's been a pitcher probably that I think the Padres would love to have back on their team. I don't know if they would undo the trade for Juan Soto, but at the same time, he has been a guy that has been very successful. Ups and downs. I mean, he's had some outings that were rough. The Padres roughed him up not too long, last season. Yeah. Mackenzie Gore, and this is what I talk about. This is what I was talking about in this whole Soto deal that we like to over discuss. I mean, if Mackenzie Gore and James Wood and CJ Abrams don't sign contract extensions with the Nationals and they end up leaving in their prime, the Padres win that trade even more than I think they already do. But Mackenzie Gore has 2 years left under control. He's 26 years old. He's a free agent in 2028. The Nationals find themselves in a position where they think Mackenzie Gore is at its peak for being, traded away. Almost like Juan Soto was when they traded Juan Soto. The Nationals are listening aggressively, and the report is that Mackenzie Gore is likely to be traded. Yankees or Orioles make the most sense, according to ESPN. I mean, the Orioles need starting pitching. They're looking for a perfect trade partner. I mean, when you talk about crazy blockbuster trades with A.J. Preller, these are the kind of situations where you could see the Padres trading a Nick Pivetta away, getting prospects, sending him to Washington and other parts to get other starting pitching. Maybe he can work on getting Mackenzie Gore back into a Padres uniform, but they think it's likely that Mackenzie Gore goes. What percentage chance do you think? I think Mackenzie Gore is at a 70% chance of getting traded because the Nationals are continuing to do the same things that they've done over and over again. They got the benefit of Strasburg at his peak and Juan Soto as a young buck to win a World Series, but they just seem like I would be shocked if Abrams or Wood sign a contract extension in Washington. But I think I believe the report that Mackenzie Gore is likely to be traded.
I don't know if CJ Abrams is going to get the opportunity to, because the reports have also been that he's being shopped as well aggressively. So you might have the opportunity, if you really wanted to get both of them back. You want to talk about trading the two biggest trade names that we've seen, Jake Cronenworth and Nick Pivetta, maybe trading them out to Washington. getting Gore back, getting CJ Abrams back to play second base, and getting some prospects there as well. So that is a very realistic option. And I see CJ Abrams being a Washington National next year. I don't see Mackenzie Gore being a National next year.
No, neither do I. The Nick Pivetta thing is interesting. Again, on those particular trades, you'd have to trade Pivetta to a contender, get prospects back, flip that another deal. And I think when you talk about the potential blockbuster deals and everything that has been circulating around the Padres, I mean, even AJ Cassavell saying, like, this seems like it's going to be an AJ Preller type offseason. Those are the type of trades that I think the Padres are working on. It's not going to be a direct like Nick Pivetta for a bunch of prospects. You're not going to get a lot of prospects with that. But the thing that's interesting to me is the second base position. Ketel Marte, Brendan Donovan, Brandon Lau, Jeff McNeil. Yankees are listing on Jazz Chisholm Jr., but the most smoke that we have seen for a second baseman, especially the most smoke we've ever seen with him in a Padres uniform, has been Jake Cronenworth. What percentage do we think Jake Cronenworth, what percentage chance does Jake Cronenworth have at being in the opening day lineup for the Padres on opening day? We're going to talk about that when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, sending us over on Sports Station 97 through the Fan.
And I've said this before, and I will repeat it here because I think it's very relevant. Cody Bellinger is calling me crazy, but as he's on this market involved, that possibilities written are not going is tough. You would assume they're talking. You talked about Gore and the Padres, similar marketplaces, Giants, Orioles, Mets, all involved. I'm glad you left it there. We're going to hit the Padres shooting big quotes. You talked about Gore and the Padres. The shooting big is now taking on a life of its own. And I mean, if the story is as written, you would assume they're talking about Tatis, right? Because Bogarts and you would assume that. I'm not saying that's correct.
Right.
Bogarts and Machado are not going anywhere.
And Cronenworth has a big contract. They'll listen on him, but
the way the story's written is that it's a monster deal, right? What's a monster? The only monster deal in my mind is Tatis that they can make.
Correct.
And I'm hearing Tatis isn't going anywhere. That's the impression I'm getting. And they're talking about Pivetta, which I think has been written in San Diego, and some of the other pitchers. They're being asked about Mason Miller. I mean, they love Mason Miller.
They do.
Does somebody else love him more than AJ Preller? I'm not sure. But, you know, those are the guys that they're at least being talked about.
And as a final thought on the Padres, John, I'll say this. What player would you prefer? If the money was the same, which player would you prefer? Fernando Tatis Jr. or Kyle Tucker?
I mean, I'd probably take Tucker just because it's a sure thing of what he's going to do almost every year. Put up that 140 OPS plus, have as many walks and strikeouts. You know, he's a good defender. He's not a great defender like Tatis. Tatis is a little bit streaky. He's more exciting for the fans. That's, you know, I think that's the reason I just have a hard time believing they would trade Tatis.
Yes.
The fans love this guy. Of course, now we see the Mets let the Diaz and Alonso go, and the fans love that.
So that's my point. I tend to agree with you that narrowly I would prefer Tucker. However, this is where it becomes interesting. Let's say you're a team that really wants a big outfield bat. and that you miss out on Tucker, do you pivot and try to acquire Tatis from the Padres? If you're the Blue Jays, for example. So if you're the Jays, which they seem to have tremendous financial resources right now, would the Jays turn around and say, okay, well, we miss on Tucker, but we will go after Tatis and try to acquire him?
I liked your Red Sox for trading for a pitcher because they have those pitchers to give, young pitchers to give up. I'm not sure they're not giving up. Savage, right? He was fantastic.
Correct. Yes.
So I'm not sure if they have the wherewithal.
I don't see it either. I think Tatis. I think, John, it sounds like we have both talked ourselves into believing Tatis is staying put.
I think he's staying put. So I'm not sure what they consider really, really big. Cubs getting Bregman and Imai. I'm going to doubt.
On 97 to the Fan. Join us on the David P. Shapiro Fan Hotline. David P. Shapiro, criminal defense attorneys helping good people regain control of their future. Win charge of the crime since 2010. Visit davidpshapirolaw.com. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's number one sports station, 97 to the Fan. We have lost Frank. We can hear Frank. His audio's there. We can't see
internet's
Frank.
Starting to be funny now.
It's the city of Baltimore is fighting back. They discovered that there's a Mets fan in there. How about that? So anyway. Oh, I guess that audio clip we were going through, Adam, was going through the YouTube stream during the break.
Oh, fun.
So everybody's all upset. They're like, we're not trading Tatis. Awesome. Anyway, I wanted to talk about the Jake Cronenworth stuff. Because where there's smoke, sometimes there's fire. Now, with Jake Cronenworth, this is the most that we have gotten in terms of any type of real, I don't want to use the term smoking it, but this is like the most that we've ever seen him be linked to potentially being traded. Now, there have been reports that the Padres would rather not do that because of his leadership qualities, but because of the fact he could do everything. I mean, he's the guy that's like, wherever you need me, I'll go out there and play. I'll do it. But as I start to break down everything that we have heard, and some of you on YouTube got to hear that clip that we were playing behind the scenes, trying to figure out if we wanted to play it or not, about with John Palmarosi and John Heyman talking about like the blockbuster moves, right? Because Kevin Acey's reported this 3 days in a row for the winter meetings. Even asked AJ Preller about it. He said, well, 99% of the time, none of this comes to fruition. It's just kind of like outside thinking. It only happens maybe 1% of the time. But if you follow along, you just try to play process of elimination with the Padres. They're not trading Fernando Tatis Jr. That was number one. They said, I mean, he was as close to untouchable as possible. That AJ Preller is going to willingly admit to, because he doesn't. He holds things very close to the vest. Jackson Merrill is in that category too. He's another guy that's probably never going to get traded. Not never, but it's probably close to never going to get traded. I mean, these are the guys that are as close to untouchable as you could possibly be. So when you're thinking blockbuster, you usually think one of these big type names. Those two don't fit the category. Then you look at Manny Machado and Xander Bogaerts. Now, these guys have full no-trade clauses. So does Tatis. And with the full no-trade clauses, I find it hard to believe that they're going to just get up and move and waive their no trade unless they get traded to an absolute contender. But even then, where they're at in their career, why would they want to leave? They're getting all the money. This is why you sign no trade. That's why you sign contract no trade clauses, because guys eventually don't want to leave. Like Kyle Schwarber is a guy that invested himself into Philadelphia. I didn't get the update if he got a no trade clause or not, but he's another guy. It's like, why move your family? It's the last contract you're ever going to sign. People don't want to get up and leave. So I don't see it. I don't see it being those two players either. I find it very hard to believe that anybody's going to take on his contract. Xander Bogaerts. I also find it very hard to believe that he's going to waive a no trade clause. We're going to talk about that with one instance where he has been mentioned with another team. Now, the other thing, when it comes to this full breakdown of what the blockbuster is going to be, what it could potentially be. You think about Jake Cronenworth and you think about Nick Pivetta. Like, these are the last two to me that make any sense in terms of making things happen aside from using the bullpen. Now, that's the other one I forgot to mention. They talked about they don't want to take away from the bullpen. They don't want to take away from the bullpen to add to a strength. Or, sorry, they don't want to take from a strength to add to a weakness and make both things mediocre, which would be taking from the bullpen to apply to your starting pitching. They didn't want to do that in terms of getting players to convert. They also didn't want to do it in a sense of, we like Mason Miller and we like Adrian Morejon and David Morgan and we like Jeremiah Estrada. We'd like to have them on the Padres. We'll listen to phone calls, but something's got to match up for us to be super into this. But the reality of the situation is, it's not the bullpen. It's not Fernando. It's not Jackson Merrill. It's not Manny. It's not Xander. That leaves relatively only two names that make any sense. Nick Pivetta and Jake Cronenworth. Those are the only two. Those are the only two that make any type of sense in terms of a, quote, big trade. Because here's the other thing. Like, somebody put in the chat, what if the blockbuster name is on the other side of the trade? Well, if that was the case, it would have a lot. It has to deal with the prospect capital that the Padres currently do not have. I mean, maybe they have more, but like I don't really see it. I think you're running into a situation where Nick Pivetta and Jake Cronenworth are your biggest options to potentially move, and then after that, if I have to call the Padres bluff in some sort of way, it's not calling their bluff on Fernando and the news on Fernando. It's calling the bluff on the bullpen. I think probably some bullpen arms might be leaving to make this thing happen, because I think you can rearrange your bullpen in a way where you, like, it's a Wandy Peralta, it's a Jeremiah Estrada, it's a David Morgan. You could get bullpen arms back from a free agent perspective. There's 100 arms available on the open market, and the more and more it becomes, you are getting bullpen arms that throw 100 miles an hour. I talked about this the other day when I was talking with a family friend who's in the White Sox organization. He's in, I think he was in development league last year when he signed out of college out of Texas Rio Grande Valley. He is in the White Sox organization. And when they are there at the complex league in Arizona, they share the complex with the Dodgers. He said they scrimmage the Dodgers almost every single day. And he said every arm the Dodgers have out there throws 100 miles
Ben
an
and
hour.
Woods on the Fan.
Throws 100 miles
Coming
an
up
hour.
Friday, can't be any worse than
So, anyway, coming up Friday on Ben and Woods. Just kidding. You're going to be able to find bullpen arms that throw gas. So there's got to be some categories or some pitchers, I think, in the bullpen that might be traded. So as you look at everything that's laying out, what are the percentage chance or percentage, like what are the odds that Jake Cronenworth is in the starting lineup for the Padres on opening day? To me, I don't even want to put it. I think it's like, I want to say it's like 45%. He's in the starting lineup. And that's not because the Padres don't value Jake Cronenworth. That's not because, they think they could be better without him. you have to find something valuable to trade. And you currently don't have that makes any sense for your team in the future. Like, even the Nick Pivetta thing. Let's say you trade Nick Pivetta. It's only one season of Nick Pivetta. He's most likely going to opt out. It's not going to draw a huge capital to give you back. Trading him is not going to fix the entire team. You're going to have to trade other pieces. And I don't know how much they have in the farm system that can add to that. But the reality is, if you're going to improve this roster, it's going to be Jake Cronenworth being sent out and Nick Pivetta being sent out in order to get the pieces back that you would need. That's just kind of using the notes and reading between the lines and trying to understand some of the reports that have been out there about what the Padres are going to do, what the Padres are expected to do, what defines a blockbuster type move, if you will. So as I look at it, I would say the most likely pieces being sent out of San Diego are Jake Cronenworth and Nick Pivetta. And I think this is what I really think is going to happen. I think those two players and maybe a couple of bullpen arms. Maybe it's a Wandy Peralta. Maybe it's a David Morgan. Maybe it's a Jason Adam. I don't think they're going to trade Mason Miller, but maybe it's a Jeremiah Estrada. Like, I think all of those names might be available for the Padres to trade away. And I think it's Nick Pivetta, and I think it's Jake Cronenworth. And I think they're going to trade a lot of those pieces away and get some prospects back and maybe some major league fringe players. And then I think they're going to flip those guys for other major leaguers that they have multiple years of control on that aren't going to cost them a fortune. So I think that's the way that they're going to save money. I think that's the way that they're going to build their roster out. I think that's the way that they're going to like fill all the holes. And to me, moving all of those pieces and getting all pieces in return and then shipping those guys off for major league veterans, that to me defines a blockbuster situation for the Padres more than we're trading away for Fernando Tatis Jr., which, by the way, if you heard it on YouTube, if you were watching on YouTube and you heard it during the break, John Paul Morosi and John Heyman basically talked themselves out of Fernando being worth trading for the San Diego Padres. They're like, oh, then maybe the Blue Jays could come. Maybe it's this guy. Maybe it's this team. And I don't really think he's going to go anywhere, on top of the fact that the Padres said he's not going anywhere. So when I think about a blockbuster, when I think about if AJ Preller gets what he wants, it's going to make the trade deadlines of the past pale in comparison. When we see all those big words and phrases and the dramatics of all of it, that to me is how you make that happen. Do we have Francis back? Is he back? Frank's back?
Yes, I'm here.
What are your thoughts on that blockbuster situation? That to me is the only way I see a blockbuster trade happening for AJ Preller.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see, like you said, I don't see one of the big names that we've come to know and love here. I don't see one of them being the names there. I see grouping together somebody that you probably wouldn't have thought of, most likely, as you mentioned, out of the bullpen. Probably a Jeremiah Estrada would be my guess, because I think of the guys that you would be willing to trade, he has the most value on the trade market, followed by along with probably both Cronenworth and Nick Pivetta. That's probably the most likely option, and you're expecting a haul back in return. When you hear blockbuster trade, you're thinking of the biggest names possible that are out there, and I don't think that's the case. I think it's going to be it'll be more of a blockbuster by way of how many names are in the deal as compared to who is in the deal.
Well, the other thing too, and I think, because somebody was in like, well, you're going to have all these holes everywhere, but you don't know. Like it's not you're
don't know what the
you're
return
not
is.
just trading for prospects, you're trading for prospects, and then the prospects are going to get flipped for holes in the starting rotation and at first base and the DH. That is the conversation. That is how they fix it. Then what do they think? They're just going to trade all these guys away and then just get all these prospects? I mean, come on, guys. That's how they're going to play the blockbuster. Now, here's the other thing. And maybe there's a trade to be made. Who was the biggest loser at the winter meetings?
Do we really need to
I
say
need
it
you to
audibly
say it.
again?
I need you to say it. Or I'm going to have
New York
Adam say it.
That would be the New York Metropolitans.
The New York Metropolitans. We have seen a lot of chaos with the Mets. The Mets are trying to redo everything. They're trying to start from scratch, to reshape the clubhouse and the environment. Is there a blockbuster to be made with the New York Mets? The morning show talked about it. We're going to discuss. If you missed it, there might be a trade to be made, and it might be for a big name that you didn't even know was available. We'll talk about it next on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 37 on a Thursday. I have to write it down in front of me so I know what day it is. That's just kind of one of the weeks we've had this week. We're talking a lot of Padres baseball today, kind of recapping the winter meetings. Yesterday was the last day of said winter meetings. And we went through a lot of different scenarios in which they're trying to pick the notes out for the San Diego Padres of what we learned during the winter meetings. And the whole blockbuster thing, I think when you use the term blockbuster and you're not talking about a movie store that no longer exists, people perk their ears up a little bit. They do. You don't just throw that phrase around too much. You know who else doesn't throw that phrase around too much? Kevin Acee. So when you start to dive into how that becomes a blockbuster, how you're able to make a trade, a blockbuster trade for the Padres based on the stipulations, or should I say the formula that the Padres currently have and what they have available, it's hard to find out what a blockbuster would be for the Padres, unless it includes a guy like Nick Pivetta, unless it includes a guy like Jake Cronenworth. Now, there is a potential trade that was discussed on Brennan Woods, one that we might have not thought before. But you start to look at the Mets. Now, the Mets are a dumpster fire in the last 24 hours. They have been a dumpster fire in the last 24 hours. If you needed any type of reasoning for that, you just saw Frank's reaction but also at the same time.
Thanks for putting it lightly.
You know what? We keep it honest on this show. We keep it real. They have been a disaster in the last 24 hours. I mean, they asked the question in the ESPN article, did the Mets just have the worst 24 hours in franchise history? You know what?
No.
It's been very difficult. I don't know if it's been the
close.
worst, but it's pretty up there. And now you start to hear the reports about Lindor, and then it's Lindor and Lindor and Lindor. And what's wrong with Lindor? Well, Lindor doesn't really like what's going on in New York. Seems like there was a clubhouse problem. Is Lindor the clubhouse problem? I mean, there's a lot of rumors with Lindor. As many rumors with Lindor as there are with Jay Cronenworth. So the morning show, Brennan Woods discussed what could be a potential blockbuster trade that involves the New York Mets. Here's what Brennan Woods said and what Woods had to say about it. Somebody know what he's been hearing.
The news that I got last night is again, take it with a grain of salt, however you want. We don't do this a lot, but I did. As we were wildly speculating yesterday, my understanding from the person I talked to is that Francisco Lindor is very much still very coveted by AJ Preller.
He certainly fits the mold.
He absolutely fits the mold. The other part I heard that we, again, wildly speculated that Mason Miller would be part of the return and potentially a Xander Bogaerts would go to New York.
First thing I would say the exact thing we kind of just idly speculated about yesterday.
The way that I heard it yesterday was it has legs. And I went, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think it's important to say, we know for a fact that Lindor was on AJ Preller's radar
5 years ago. He told me to my face.
For a fact, we know that.
Stared at me in my eyes and said, "Wait till I get Francisco."
And well,
the news being that he's still on the radar.
The radar of Francisco Lindor. Okay, let's try to break this down. Now, if you do the Francisco Lindor trade, you're picking up 31.9 on the AAV for Francisco Lindor. Now, you are in a other sense getting rid of the Xander Bogaerts contract. So he said Mason Miller, Xander Bogaerts in a potential deal that brings back Francisco Lindor. Lindor's only 32 compared to Xander. Well, actually, I don't know how old is Xander now. It's 33 years old. I mean, they're relatively
I believe they're roughly the same age.
The same age. I mean, Francisco Lindor, good. You would have a shortstop for the future, I guess. I mean, it'd be cool to have Francisco Lindor on the team. And here's the other thing about all these deals. The morning show doesn't really talk like this unless it's something important. They're never really breaking news. We're not really in the news breaking business. Not that it is, but it's and they said take it for what it's worth. This is what they have heard. They wouldn't talk about 33. Xander's 33, Lindor's 32. So it's not even a big difference of an age. Xander's under contract until 2033, and Francisco Lindor is under contract until, if I can get my computer to work ever, 2031. You have one less year. You get to pay him a little bit more money, but you free up the Xander Bogaerts contract. And then again, the Mason Miller deal is very interesting too. There's a lot of things that have to go right for the Padres for this to make a ton of sense. And the obstacles are there. But here's how I interpret this a couple of different ways. Number one, Francisco Lindor, as mentioned by Bennett Woods, has been a, quote, the white whale, one of the white whales that A.J. Preller has coveted. He tried to go after him before he ended up on the Mets. When A.J. Preller is set on a certain player, he finds a way to get set certain player, or at least tries he's going to make a lot of phone calls for him. We saw that with Shohei Ohtani. We saw that with Juan Soto, right? We've gotten all the rumors about how the Padres had an offer in with the Angels to send Jackson Merrill and a package to get Shohei Ohtani. But he does not let any stone go unturned, right? And when he's fixated on a player, he goes after said player. So from that standpoint, I believe it. I can see something like that. Now, if it's going to have to cost you something. Maybe a Mason Miller is enough to make that happen. Do I think this is the right move for the Padres? I don't necessarily know. You'd have to work out a lot of the details. I find it interesting. I would find that to be a blockbuster level move. But why it doesn't make a lot of sense? If you're Xander Bogaerts, why would you waive your no trade clause to go play for the New York Mets and play in New York with, everything that comes with playing in New York, with the pressure of New York, with, New York wanted to run Francisco Lindor out of town like his first year there when he was struggling. Xander Bogaerts is an aging veteran. He'd signed up to be on the Mets. I don't know how you could get Xander Bogaerts to waive his no trade clause on this particular deal. I also, as great of a player Francisco Lindor is, I don't feel like he's like the answer to all your problems where it's worth trading a guy like Mason Miller. And if you're the Mets, why would you, aside from the fact that Lindor is running a mess right now in behind the scenes, allegedly from reports that we're getting, why would you give up Lindor to take on, I guess you save some money with Xander Bogaerts? Is that all just for Mason Miller? I see a couple of these things. I believe some of it, but not all of it when it comes to this particular deal. This strikes me as one of the 99% of ideas that just don't come to fruition.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. As far as the Lindor locker room issues, Mike Puma, who's one of the Met writers for the New York Post, I believe, said that he had a big blow up, Lindor did, with Jeff McNeil after a game in Philadelphia in June where McNeil kind of jogged it on 2 plays on defense. There's also been reports that Lindor isn't a big fan of Juan Soto's attitude, as far as Soto is reported to be very businesslike. I'm here to get the job done. I'm not really here to socialize. I'm not really here to make friends. I'm just here to do what I need to do and do it to the best of my ability.
Real quick. Has anybody said anything good about Juan Soto in the clubhouse? Have we got any good reports about Juan Soto in the clubhouse and like any team that he's played on? This is the third team that we've heard the rumors about like Juan Soto being a massive problem.
Right, but that doesn't sound to me like Juan Soto is being a problem child. Like he's starting his own clique. It's like he's just keeping to himself. That to me, that doesn't sound like locker room cancer to me. That just seems like a guy who wants to do his own thing the way he wants to do it, and that's it. As far as
I don't see it with the Juan Soto stuff is, I mean, he has had baggage everywhere he's left, and now
absolutely.
he's already got Lindor upset about Juan Soto. I don't even believe that. I feel like Lindor is even like putting it in a nicer way than what is probably actually going on. So I don't get the whole the Juan Soto thing. To me, I think it's kind of crazy on that particular front. There's not a lot. I mean, he doesn't. There's always clubhouse problems with Juan Soto, it seems.
No, he absolutely, and he has been a problem every single place he's gone. I mean, that is undeniable. But one thing that Juan Soto, that Francisco Lindor, would really help here, I think, is what is the one thing that we have complained about for the last couple of years about that Padre clubhouse. Is that there's no real team leader here, that we keep expecting guys like Manny Machado to step up into that leadership role and doesn't, or at least doesn't appear to. Lindor is that leader. Lindor is the guy who's going to go. It's been reported in the New York media many times that Lindor will go up to every single player like once a week just to kind of see where they are and see how they're feeling and that kind of thing. He's the glue guy. He is the leader. He is the guy who's going to take a loss the most personal.
All right. So you just I'm going to interrupt real quick. You just talked about how Lindor is like a captain and the most important guy in the clubhouse, and he is the guy that keeps everybody together, and I mean, you said it all. Yes. So wouldn't you, if you're the New York Mets, value him a little bit more in a sense of like, all right, we can't work with this guy? I mean, you're in a bad spot because you can't get rid of Juan Soto. But the fact that Juan Soto has now taken over the New York Mets and Lindor, who is that guy, that is the glue guy, that is that all-together guy, wants out. I mean, who is more important to the front office of the New York Mets? Francisco Lindor, the leader and the incumbent, or Juan Soto, who's the money guy, and they're the big investment? I mean, maybe you're in a situation right now in New York where they're getting rid of all the Lindor guys, and they're going to get rid of Lindor, and they're going to build around Juan because they spent all the money on Juan Soto. If they can't have Juan Soto and Lindor in the same clubhouse, which opens up the door for this potential trade, and now this is starting to make a lot more sense for the San Diego Padres.
Yeah, it could. And I'm not saying it's not out there. I'm just saying I personally haven't seen anything that says Lindor wants out of New York. I personally have not seen it. It might be out there. It might not be. I just haven't seen it. But as far as him coming here, I think it would be a good fit for the Padres, who need that clubhouse leader, that captain. There was a ton of rumors last year that when the Mets retired David Wright's number and put him in the Team Hall of Fame, that the same day that they were going to have Francisco Lindor be named the official team captain, become the third or fourth team captain in Met history. That didn't happen. But I don't see why the Mets would want to lose him, would want to give him up. His family seems very, very settled there. He's got a podcast, a Met podcast, I believe, that he goes on every now and again. I don't see why he would want to leave there, but I can definitely see why the Padres would want to try to pry him out of Queens, 100%.
Well, some of the report, I mean, I think Juan Soto is just enough for Lindor to be like, I don't want to be here anymore. Or the fact that they just parted ways with Nimmo, and they didn't sign Pete Alonso, and they didn't re-sign Edwin Diaz. I mean, Edwin Diaz was upset with the Mets front office with the way that had been handled. I mean, it could be a lot of different things where now Lindor is the guy that used to be the face of the franchise, the leader of the clubhouse, and he's getting overlooked by the investment that they put into Juan Soto, and he could be like, the hell with this, get me out of here, I want to go be the guy somewhere else. Now, all the great leadership qualities of Francisco Lindor are a big reason I think it'd be nice to have him on the Padres. Yes. I just feel like the Padres missed their boat on Lindor like 3 years ago, because you're trading for him like at 32. I mean,
He's still a solid player,
he
though.
is still a solid player, but you're not eliminating your massive problem. Your massive problem that you have is
pitching.
aging veterans on massive contracts.
Yeah.
And if you trade and you make the Mason Miller, Xander Bogaerts trade, let's just say you do, unless you're going to flip Lindor, which is not going to be the case. The problem is you increase that number unless you get the Mets to pay to get the number to, unless you get the Mets to pay to cover the difference between Lindor's contract and Xander Bogaerts' contract, and you are okay with paying Lindor $25 million a year, it doesn't make a lot of sense for the Padres financially to add Francisco Lindor, an aging veteran with a big contract. What you would do is you shave off a year, and you'd have to pay an additional $10 million a year on the player. He costs $34 million towards the AAV, if I'm not mistaken. I think it might be 31.
I don't know.
In terms of the finances,
shaky on the internet.
How this makes sense to me for the whole situation that was talked about and that Woods heard and they discussed in the morning show. I think you need a guy like Mason Miller to entice the Mets to potentially part ways with Lindor. I think in order to give up a guy like Mason Miller, I think there needs to be a contract swap. And the only thing financially that makes sense to me is if the Mets, because the Padres are paying Xander Bogaerts $25 million a year until 2033. If the New York Mets pay the difference between Lindor and Bogaerts, in which Lindor is now on the Bogaerts contract but 1 year less, I think you can justify paying Lindor $25 million a year towards your overall roster construction than you can Xander Bogaerts. I think Lindor at $25 million a year is more affordable for a Padres organization than Xander Bogaerts. And so I think it alleviates some of the problem, but the contract's the same. You're still keeping the same contract on the books, and you're going to have to pay Francisco Lindor and Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. over $100 million as they all are aging players. Now, Fernando's not going to be as bad, and you're going to get back into the same situation that you were. Oh, and by the way, your elite bullpen arm that you have, Mason Miller, is now gone. And now you have a hole in the bullpen, and basically you traded away a future Francisco Lindor potentially for not even a half a season of Mason Miller to get older Lindor. That perspective doesn't make sense of what the Padres gave up for Mason Miller to then flip him the offseason for Francisco Lindor. But these are the conversations that happen at the winter meetings. These are the conversations. This is the 99% of things that don't work out. You throw around a bunch of names, you kick the tires, you see who's interested, and you take your notes. And then after that, you maybe start making deals. What did the Padres learn from the winter meetings? We're going to talk about that when we come back. Plus, get your phone calls to the Braden Surprenant Show, Standing Up Sports Station 97 The Fan. New lunchtime hour here at 97 to the Fan. They're doing the St. Jude Telethon over on Quezon today.
That's where you guys were.
So there's a lot of food. I'm on my 18th cup of coffee. And since I'm back here now, I mean, I was not going to go to, I'm obviously going to miss practice today.
Mm-hmm.
It's a walkthrough. It might be the most jittery walkthrough I'll ever do. I mean, I might be bouncing in my car on the drive to Del Mar today. But that's the problem with eating an Egg McMuffin. I didn't heat it up. I had it cold. It was okay. It wasn't the worst. And we got the best kind of heating devices in the kitchen. Adam had some Costco pizza.
An Egg McMuffin right now.
Hey, go take a walk in Baltimore. See what you can string up.
Oh no, I will after the show. It's not going to be a long walk. I'll tell you that. I'm tired. It's funny how we always say, "Oh, the show goes by so quick. The show goes by so fast." I just looked at the clock. Guy asked me, "What time are you guys off?" I go,
"I don't
know."
Doing
the math in my
East
head.
Coast?
5 o'clock. I see it's 3. I'm like, oh, God. 2 hours.
2 more hours to go. I see Adam eat. I don't want to throw him under the bus because I know he doesn't like jumping on. I see Adam eat pizza so much. Now, is your pizza diet because of kids? Is it because you have kids and therefore you have pizza all the time? Or are you just a big pizza connoisseur?
I think you're overstating the frequency with which I eat pizza.
Maybe that's just the times you're in the office when we see you eating lunch. It seems like a lot of pizza.
The Costco pizza is one of the greatest things ever.
$10.
Oh, stop it.
It's gigantic. Feeds my whole family with
fantastic.
leftovers.
With leftovers? You, your wife, and all your kids eat on one pizza? Or did you get a couple of them?
No, one pizza. And to be honest, throw it in the freezer. That's not even recently. It's from probably last week. Throw it in the freezer. I forgot, normally I make my lunch the night before. My daughter had a concert last night for her orchestra. And so we were out late. Got up this morning, forgot to kind of put something together for lunch. It was open up the freezer, grab something, bring it to lunch today.
Out late. Yeah.
And by late, I mean 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
For my young kids, that's late to be out of the house.
I don't even talk about it that much. We're going to get to there's some news today with the Padres that we want to get to. Now former Padre had just signed on with Adam Klug's Atlanta Braves. We're going to talk about
Adam Klug's San Diego Padres lost somebody.
That's right. Well, you also gained a half. You gained a half. I think we've converted him to a full-time Padres fan. So, but anyway, the travel I've had in the last week has been crazy. I didn't even talk about how we got stuck trying to get up to Long Beach last Friday. With the 5 being shut down.
Oh, yes.
Everybody's like, "Did you make it? Did you make it?" I barely made it. The buses barely made it up to Long Beach City College because of everything that went down with the with Interstate 5. The travel has been not great over the last 2 weeks. I'm hoping for better travel up to Saddleback tomorrow. So now former Padre Robert Suarez, he signs a deal with the Atlanta Braves. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but in my opinion, this is not somebody that you need to be upset about leaving. No. He's not bad. He's not bad. You would love to have him in the bullpen, but for $15 million a year, you need to use that money and spend that money on starting pitching. That's your biggest problem right now, not the bullpen. He is a luxury you now cannot afford. I think anybody that is upset by that news should understand he was never coming back to begin with. The bullpen was going to stay the same, right? And now Robert Suarez, the new guy on the block in Atlanta, will be the setup man to the incumbent, which is Raisel Iglesias. Not totally surprised. That was kind of the case here in San Diego. Mason Miller comes in. He's not the incumbent. Robert Suarez stays as a closer. Mason Miller's a setup man. Now, all of a sudden, you can see Mason Miller potentially as a closer. And we'll see what happens. Because of they're listening to calls on Mason Miller. And there's a lot of different things that we want to get to when it comes to the Padres. We've kind of recapped the winter meetings in general. We want to recap what the winter meetings have been with the San Diego Padres. I do want to get your phone calls, though. 833-288-1973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Kevin in Chula Vista. Kevin, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on?
Well, terrific discussion once again, boys. Braden, I think you hit the nail right on the head when you said Francisco Lindor is about 3 years too late. I don't understand where the wisdom is in crippling your bullpen, taking out who is arguably the best closer in baseball by far, that you're not going to be able to come close to replacing even with the guys you got. And then you pick up a guy that's 32 that he's not going to be the leader. Manny Machado is the unquestioned clubhouse guy. This is his team. So let me summarize where we're at. Several years ago, we were all giddy about the contracts and the players that they picked up because we thought they were going to the World Series. Well, that hasn't happened. So now you're stuck with the future be damned, the future is here. And so you've got this helter-skelter merry-go-round that they're on that really they can't get off of, and it's gone so far as to jeopardize the ownership of this team. I don't know what the answers are at this point, because every time you think about making a move, one move then opens up another hole elsewhere. So until this team grasps a long-term plan, other than this continual poker chip playing that they do, this is going to be a mess. And we're not going to know, as I keep saying, what this team really is going to have until day one. And even after then, we may not know. So I don't know what else to say. It's very frustrating to be a Padres fan. I've watched it since 1969. Every ownership has gone down in flames, this one too. So what do we got at this point?
Well, at this point, I mean, and Kevin, I appreciate the phone call. I think, and again, this is the process we got to you can't evaluate everything until all the moves have been made. We talk about that every offseason, and I think they're working on a lot of different things. I think AJ Preller went out there and took a lot of notes at the winter meetings of what he might be able to play, what he might be able to pull off, what he might be able to get in terms of a trade. And I'm telling you, I just, based on what AJ Cassavell said on MLB Network the other day, I kind of believe the fact that this is going to be an AJ Preller type offseason. I mean, we could get a big move tomorrow. You have no idea. It might take a little bit of time, but I think the trades are going to be the answer for the Padres this offseason, and you might have a really different looking roster. And again, as you trade some of these guys away and you trade some of the major leaguers away, it sounds like they're going to keep their core. I think they're going to get some prospects back. I think they're going to flip those guys for other major league players. That's the only kind of plan of attack I think that is going to happen for the Padres when it comes to the trades. That to me is the Padres' chance at improving all their spots. And yeah, they're going to have to give something up. And that's the thing. Like, people are like, why would you give up for your starting pitching? Unfortunately, right now, you don't have a lot of options. You don't have a lot of options in terms of how to improve the roster unless you do a couple other things. So they're going to have to think a little bit outside the box. Angelo in San Diego, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, Angelo?
Hello, Braden. Thanks for your call. I'd like to talk about my previous call back Tuesday on 10:51 when I mentioned that we should fire Preller. I'm of that opinion back now, and I was back then. I just want to make sure I point out that I felt that the way you handled that call was pretty unprofessional. I think that you interrupted and you didn't give me a chance to give my alternative for his replacement, which is Jake Peavy, to also reinforce Kevin's previous call, the helter-skelter merry-go-round. That's the best way to characterize it. We need to stop trying to play cleanup for AJ Preller's horrible management. I also want to point out, as a longtime listener of your program, you like to make statements regarding how it appears that you may be favorable towards the ownership. When you cut callers off, you don't allow them to finish their opinions, and you try to trap them with gotcha questions and sarcastic remarks like you did last Tuesday, that gives callers the impression that you're favorable towards ownership. Okay, but the stats are clear. How many times has AJ Preller struck out on free agents? We tried to get Nick Castellanos in the offseason. He didn't want to come here. Trey Turner, who was in our farm system, who we traded away. Right? We're over here bargain bin dumpster diving for old players. The buck stops at AJ Preller. Okay? We cannot continue to engage in this business exercise every year. If you ran a business, and every business you had to constantly hire new people over and over and over and over again, you would ask questions about how that business is being run. And that's the bottom line. AJ Preller has had unlimited money, unlimited resources, practically speaking, great ownership, great fans, and he hasn't been able to deliver anything. And it's not sustainable, Braden, as you said before. 4 out of 6 seasons, playoff appearances, we need to set the bar higher. That means absolutely nothing. We haven't even been able to win the division since 2006, 2007? So no, we have to have higher expectations. We cannot continue to let AJ Preller trade players on this team like he's a 15-year-old playing MLB The Show.
Are you done? Thank you. All right. Well, here's the deal, Angelo. I give you an opportunity to talk on the show, and it's my show. And so we're going to do what I think, because it's my show. It's not your show. It's my show. And so I will let you go as long as I see fit. I think you went a little bit far today. Appreciate you listening every day. Thank you very much. Now, let's kind of counter with some of these things. Okay? Everybody misses on free agents or doesn't get free agents. I mean, the Blue Jays for years could never get a free agent. They finally got a couple of free agents. They can never get a free agent. It happens. I asked again. I was like, well, who are you going to place AJ Preller with? He said Jake Peavy. Cool. Is Jake Peavy going to make all these moves? Maybe. But at the same time, when you talk about consistency of this Major League Baseball team and the San Diego Padres, and I've watched San Diego Padres baseball for a long time. This San Diego Padres team, with this ownership and with the general manager AJ Preller, has gone to the playoffs 3 out of the last 4 years. They have gone to the playoffs 4 out of the last 6 years. They have acquired Fernando Tatis Jr. They went and signed Manny Machado. They signed Xander Bogaerts. They signed good starting pitching. I mean, AJ Preller went and turned Seth Lugo into a starting pitcher. Gave him an opportunity to do so. He went and found Nick Martinez in Japan. Came out here and looked pretty good. Got himself a big contract after he left. Robert Suarez, he found him in Japan. That was another bargain basement type move. That guy just signed for $45 million on a 3-year deal with the Atlanta Braves. He gave Jerickson Profar a chance. Profar was one of the most disappointing number 1 prospects in Major League Baseball. He got him from the A's, and then what did Profar do? Did well here in San Diego. Didn't do well in Colorado. Did well here in San Diego again. He got a big contract after he left. We went and found Gary Sanchez off the waiver wire. I mean, Gavin Sheets. Nobody wanted Gavin Sheets. Gavin Sheets got cut by the White Sox. They went and got Donovan Solano. What did Donovan Solano do after last year? Nick Pivetta was the guy that had like a 4-something ERA. Frank didn't even want Nick Pivetta signed. He was like, I can't believe you're signing this guy. I mean, come on. We like to focus on a lot of the negative of AJ Preller, but there's been a lot of positive of AJ Preller as well. I mean, again, the whole thing, it's like, well, we haven't won the division yet. You're playing by slightly different rules than the team up north that could just sign blank checks to everybody. I mean, has AJ Preller made all the right moves? No. But he's made a lot of good ones. And this team is a lot better than it was when they had previous general managers. Do we want to go back to those days? Before the Padres had gone to 4 playoffs appearances in the last 6 years, they had made the playoffs 5 times ever. 5 playoff years in 50 years of history. Under AJ Preller, They have gone to the playoffs 3 out of the last 4, 4 out of the last 6. They have actually signed major league legit players. It's the most exciting team the Padres have had in a long time. And it's, this guy sucks. Come on. Sometimes the grass isn't always green on the other side. Sometimes the grass isn't as green on the other side. Look, I get your point. There's a lot of people that don't want AJ Preller around anymore. My case is, unless you could point in a direction of somebody that's going to do a better job than him, and it's going to elevate you to that next level, I think it's going to be, I think that's hard to find. I think that's hard to find, considering the stipulations. I mean, if AJ Preller got fired, there's going to be a lot of people that probably think he could do a really good job for them. I bet you he'd probably get a job. I mean, there's some other things behind the scenes on a lot of different deals and how he does things. But without AJ Preller, you honestly wouldn't have the exciting off seasons you have. You wouldn't have the exciting trade deadlines. You wouldn't have Fernando Tatis Jr. They traded James Shields for Fernando Tatis Jr. I mean, we just assume that everybody would make some of these moves. If you're going to criticize or evaluate a general manager, you have to be able to evaluate both the good and the bad. And to me, the good of AJ Preller outweighs the bad of potentially getting rid of him and then finding a replacement. And again, it's the Braden Surprenant show. So I'm going to let you talk, but it's our show. We're going to do it how we see fit. And you obviously like it because you listen to it every day. So we appreciate the phone call. We appreciate you listening. I'm always for the discussion. But, I mean, I get to dictate how long you have on the phones. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. When we come back, how did the Padres do at the winter meetings? What did we learn about the Padres at the winter meetings? We're going to discuss when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego Summer Sports Station 97 through the Fan. 1224, Braden Surprenant Show, live and local, each and every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's number sports station 97.3, The Fan. I do want to go through a little bit of an exercise here about having higher expectations. Let's go over, like, the best teams in baseball. When you think about the best teams in baseball, Frank, who are the best, who are the most, like, traditional best teams in baseball?
Oh, the traditional Chicago, Pittsburgh, that whole group.
The Dodgers, Yankees,
Yes,
the Red
Dodgers,
Sox.
Yankees, Red Sox, Cubs. That's usually
Phillies.
what I'm thinking of.
New York Mets have been good. I mean, they're a team that you're competing with, the Atlanta Braves. Aside from the Dodgers and the Yankees, the Padres have made the playoffs the same amount or more times in the last 6 years as any of those teams in Major League Baseball, making it 4 out of the last 6 years. In fact, aside from 2022, the Padres have had a winning record. Or sorry, from 2021. The Padres have had a winning record every year since 2020. 4 of the last 5 years. Or whatever it is. 5 of the last 6 years. They've had a winning record. Define, like, having more success. I mean, we could go through the list of how many times teams have made the playoffs around Major League Baseball. They're making it basically every single year. And when you get to the playoffs, this is a crapshoot in Major League Baseball. How many times we got to bring up the Eno Saris thing that when he said on Bennett Woods about how many games you would have to play or how many, like, game series you would have to play to determine the real better team in baseball? It's like, what is it? Like, you had a bit like a best of 196 or something crazy like that. That means everything else when it comes to the when it comes to the playoffs, making it is basically the biggest hurdle you have to do as an organization. And then after that, it's really a crapshoot. It's getting hot at the right time. I mean, start looking at some of the teams that you compete with. I mean, the Giants are supposed to be a legit franchise. They made the playoffs like once in the last like 8 or 9 years. What about the St. Louis Cardinals? The St. Louis Cardinals. They have the best fans. The St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinal way. We talk about the Cardinal way all the time. Cardinals that made the playoffs the last 3 seasons. And before that, they made the playoffs 4 out of their last 7 seasons. They're on par with most of the best teams in Major League Baseball. I know you fans want a World Series. I'd like to see one too in San Diego before I die. And I'm a lot younger than a lot of other people out there. But this organization is getting to the playoffs in a consistent manner. Even last year. I mean, last year with all the moves the Dodgers made and with the Padres, like, quote, lack of moves, everybody thought it'd be lucky for the Padres to make the playoffs. Not only did they make the playoffs, they finished within 3 games of LA for the division lead, which is the biggest showing of how close you are to a team as the regular season. We got to play a 162 games. Start looking at the other teams in Major League Baseball, maybe just specifically the National League, and start looking at when they've made the playoffs and how many times they've made the playoffs. I'm telling you, they're right on par. The consistency is in making the playoffs, Frank.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you cannot be upset with making the playoffs 4 times out of 6 years, especially when it's the first time you've done it in your franchise's history. This is not a team that is known for having playoff success or making it there to begin with. And now you've got a generation where you are making it consistently. You're in the fight every single year. And you're a couple of wins away from being there 5 years in a row. We're going for 6 years in a row this year. I mean, that is, you cannot expect to make the postseason every single year. Only the best of the best teams can do that. And right now, you're doing it, which is incredible and unheard of in the history of the franchise. And our expectations are too low. Still, come on.
Everybody wants a championship. The thing is with Major League Baseball and the sport of baseball in general is getting the playoffs are kind of a crapshoot. I mean, somebody in the chat goes like, "What? Why aren't the best players doing exceptionally well in the postseason?" Well, I don't know. You're playing against really good teams, and not a lot of players do exceptionally well in the postseason. I mean, think about all the. I hate comparing to the Dodgers, but like the Dodgers' best players usually do not have massive postseasons.
No,
Mookie Betts has not been very good in the postseason.
Betts' World Series was horrific.
He hadn't been very good. I mean, you start looking at Shohei Ohtani was not good in the playoff series against the Padres a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of the best players are going to do it. It's such a small sample size. You go from evaluating players on 300 at-bats to then looking at a finite amount of time where it's like, oh, well, it's heightened and see how he does in the clutch. I mean, how many at-bats are you getting in the postseason? Not a lot. You're not getting a lot of opportunities. And guess what you're seeing? A new pitcher almost every single time you come to the dish because it's all hands on deck, right?
Yeah, and
so,
if you're in a slump or if you're in a downturn, forget it. You don't have the time to get out of it.
So again, like, you call me what you want. I'm saying how it is when it comes to the situation of what the front office has done and the success that they have had for an organization that has had no success until they showed up. Sure, they made the playoffs a couple of times. I mean, you look back at the only other time, because the Padres, what are the Padres trying to do this year, Frank? Go to the playoffs for the third straight year, right? They have never done that in their franchise history.
Nope.
The Padres have never been to the playoffs 3 years in a row. They have never done that, ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know we got to raise the bar. I'm all for raising the bar. But to sit there and say that they haven't really accomplished much, and it's like, I don't know how many, what do they have to do? Make the playoffs like 8 years in a row? They had never made the playoffs 3 years in a row in their history, ever. And if you look back to the last time that they went to the playoffs, back-to-back seasons, because this past year was the second time they have ever done that, you have to go back to 05, 06. We talked about this earlier this week. I don't remember what day it is. What was the Padres' record in 2005 when they won the division?
You said it was 80 and 82.
82 and 80.
Oh, 82 and 80.
82 and 80. They won the division at 82 and 80. Were they the best high-level team? Or is it the fact that the Dodgers were in a massive problem with their ownership? Giants were bad. The Rockies weren't good. The Diamondbacks were bad. You just happen to be the best of probably the least. When you finished first, and then got smoked by the Cardinals in the divisional series. And then you made it again. At least you won 88 games the second time. But this is an organization that had only been to the playoffs 5 times their first 50 years of history, and they have now made it 4 to the last 6. So, yes, you always want to elevate and set the bar higher. But at the same time, you have to understand the realities of the situation of what this team has turned into compared to where they were at. And I saw it in the chat, and I totally agree. There's a lot of people that either don't remember the dark days or think that the Padres were a lot better than they really were, because 5 playoff appearances in 50 years is not getting it done. Now, what did the Padres accomplish at the winter meetings? I've teased it long enough. When we come back, we're going to talk about what Preller was doing at the winter meetings and what they got out of it. When we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego Sports Station 97.3 The Fan.
Ben and Wood.
1240 on the Braden Surprenant Show. Live locally each every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Don't have time to get to the midday sports standoff today. If you take me down in sports trivia, you would be qualified for a shot at our grand prize. 2 tickets to New Kids on the Block in Las Vegas on June 26th, a 2-night stay at Park MGM, and a $100 gas card. Calling all blockheads. New Kids on the Block just announced 2026 dates for their The Right Stuff Las Vegas residency at Dolby Live at Park MGM. Don't miss all your favorite hits live in Las Vegas with New Kids on the Block, February to October of 2026. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. Let's talk about what the Padres have learned from the winter meetings. Kevin Acee had a big article on this earlier. I really saw it last night. And there's some big takeaways from what happened. Again, we talked about like the big winners and losers of the winter meetings. Obviously, the big winners, I think you can mention the Phillies being able to keep Kyle Schwarber. I think the Orioles are a big winner for what they have been able to accomplish during the winter meetings. I think the Blue Jays have been able to accomplish a lot during this offseason. I think you can rope the Dodgers in there for getting arguably the best closer on the market. And you know about the losers, too. And the big loser, obviously, is the New York Mets for, like, how Stearns is basically operating the organization that has the biggest checkbook, like he is running the Tampa Bay Rays. And so you saw the losers in that side. Now, somewhere in between are the San Diego Padres. Because they didn't really they signed a couple of minor league pitchers on major league deals to be in the bullpen to help out the pitching staff. They did something. It's not like you have to do anything at the winter meetings. The winter meetings are just a time where everybody in baseball is meeting together. Therefore, it's a lot easier to get deals done because you are conversing in person and everything like that. It doesn't mean that it was unproductive. Kevin Acee lays this out in a couple of different ways. He mentioned, it was funny, like he mentioned how AJ Preller had, speaking about travel to the East Coast, AJ Preller had 2 flights booked this week, one for Wednesday and one for today. His departure was going to depend on how talks were progressing. If something was working out, he was going to stay in Orlando an extra day. But despite rising buzz around the Padres, no deal appeared imminent. So he flew back early. But these meetings were very much informative for the Padres. Preller said the Padres used the meetings to gather information on markets, prices, and which players would become available. With free agents starting to sign elsewhere, clarity is forming around the Padres' options. Preller emphasized everything is fluid, changing hour to hour. I think you can have a successful winter meetings and be a winner out of it based on the notes you take, the information you get, that leads to other deals. If the Padres make a couple of deals over the next couple of weeks, and it dates back to the winter meetings, I would consider, Frank, the Padres to be winners at the winter meetings. Sometimes it's just gaining information than making a big splash or making a blockbuster deal.
Oh yeah, and that's you get these general managers together for one, I mean, it's a media opportunity, but 2, you get them together to talk about stuff like this and see if they can move things along. I know you have the GM meetings earlier on in the off season, but these winter meetings really help get a lot of this stuff going and get a lot of these conversations off the ground. And whether or not anything comes of it is up to obviously the 2 teams. But I would say if you got the groundwork for something that you can get later on down the line during the offseason, I think that it would be a successful winter meetings.
I think so too. I think that's exactly right. I mean, the Padres are positioning themselves in what they could potentially get here. What's it going to take to get a player like this over here? Can we flip a guy to a contender, from our major league capital to get some prospect capital? Does this team over here that has this prized possession that we want like these prospects more than our prospects? I mean, these are all tons of notes. This is why there are reports about like the Padres going for something big. They're getting all their notes together and putting all of their pieces together to fill out this roster. And here's the thing, like that first move is going to happen because the Padres have to make some moves to fill out this roster. That first move is going to happen. People are going to be like, and you know what? It might not be in the order you would think it would be in. And the reaction is going to be like, really? When we have XYZ, we're spending it on this? It's the same situation as the trade deadline, right? Where everybody was surprised by the Mason Miller trade because this is an asset we don't need. And then it started to come to fruition as the day went on because of all the notes that they had been taking throughout the season, all the phone calls that they had been making. And I think it takes some time on that to get that huge deal. I mean, let me ask you this, Frank. How many times did we see and hear leading up to the trade deadline, months before the trade deadline, we know the problems the Padres have. Why haven't they made a move? They wait, and A.J. Preller waits for the most opportune time.
Yeah, absolutely. And every single build or rebuild goes through an ugly or a gawky sort of phase where you can't really see the clear image of what is going to be done and what the final product is supposed to be. So this is part of that. You're going through that ugly phase, and sometimes the transactions, if multiple are planned and multiple are being made, they don't always come in the order that you're expecting or that you're anticipating them being to where the picture is clear. So you have to be patient with this sort of stuff, especially in an off season with a general manager like AJ Preller and how crazy he could be. You might not see the full picture right up until the very end after many moves or just one extra move is made.
I'm going to go back to again, we've been playing the process of elimination game in determining what the Padres have to sell, right? What pieces they have to sell. In order to get the big deal, two reliable sources have said, this is from Kevin Acey's reporting, that the Padres are working on multiple deals that would, quote, be huge. There's been zero actionable intel leaked about specifics, buzz, not substance. But the league does not believe the Padres will avoid trading a reliever. Most think someone from the bullpen is being shopped. I think that was confirmed with the fact that they signed two bullpen arms, even though they are not massive names, not massive deals, kind of let's see what they have. And they were on major league deals. I think that really lays into the fact that they are going to potentially be trading away a bullpen arm or maybe two. I believe what the league is saying more so than obviously they don't want to trade from the strength to make it weak, but they just added to the strength with two bullpen signings that they had. I think there's ways to ship off other bullpen arms that are going to help fill a lot of the other holes because they need controllable starting pitching. And to me, based on the fact that they're not going to trade Fernando, based on the fact that they're not going to, trade Manny or maybe not Xander, doesn't sound like they're going to trade Jackson Merrill. They need a trade from somewhere. Why make the starting rotation weaker and look for another hole by trading Pivetta? Trading reliever likely becomes the path to fill a lot of these holes.
Yeah, and trading a reliever, trading out of a surplus that you have, and we've spoken about it so much over the course of this offseason. You have Mason Miller, you have Jason Adams going to be coming back at some point, Adrian Morejon, Jeremiah Estrada, David Morgan. We've talked about Bradley Rodriguez as well. So it makes sense to trade from a surplus of arms that somehow, some way, you may know who some of these players are, you may not. that Padre bullpen is consistently one of the best bullpens in Major League Baseball. And it doesn't matter whether the team's been good or bad. It's always been one of the top bullpens in baseball. So trading out of there to get your starter, to get your first baseman, or to get another need that you feel as though you may have, that seems like it's going to be the only option that the Padres have, or the best option that the Padres have, I should say.
Here's the other thing too. It's the payroll, and the pressure of the payroll really pigeonholes what AJ Preller is going to be able to do. And this is also put in the Kevin Acee article that we were discussing. Despite Chairman John Seidler saying 2026 payroll will be similar to last year, the Padres, with what they have, are not going to be able to add 2 starting pitchers, a first base / DH bat, without moving money elsewhere. They have to try to shed some payroll. Padres are not in a position to just add. Salary dumps or balancing deals may be required. I don't see it too much as a salary dump, but more of a salary relocation, if you will, like reallocating your assets into a different area by trading away something that you might have a plethora of. That is also, I think, part of the equation, which goes back to the bullpen. If you trade away bullpen arms, there's not a lot of bullpen arms that are making a ton of money. So it's not really going to save you too much money. So that's where you start thinking about, can I reallocate the $12 million I'm giving Jake Cronenworth to a different position by trading away Jake Cronenworth, using the prospect capital to then go get said position? Or maybe I trade away Jake Cronenworth so I can sign somebody else. I mean, these are all of the different equations that AJ Preller in the front office have to calculate when they're trying to fill those really 3 roster spots. Somebody's getting sent somewhere, and it's going to come from the major league team, and it's going to be somebody with some money on the books. Right now, like Nick Pivetta and Jake Cronenworth seem to be the highest likely, because the next thing that was pointed out, and we've said this ad nauseum, and Adam tweeted it out the other day, can we finally put to rest that Fernando Tatis Jr. is not being traded? Like, can we finally put to rest the whole Fernando Tatis Jr. trade conversation? But to go back to the payroll pressure, that makes it even more difficult to try to fill out this roster.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's the bottom line is, with what you did last year, you traded 22 players last year at the trade deadline, most of them coming out of the prospect pool and out of the minor leagues. AJ Preller does a great job of replenishing that on a consistent basis. However, you need the time to be able to do that. You need to be able to kill some time and get some guys in by not using that. And right now, that is your best option, is to start trading away some of these players that aren't quite franchise cornerstones, but guys that you can live without and can work around without. And guys like Jake Cronenworth, Jeremiah Estrada, those are guys that kind of fit that bill as players that would most likely be traded, that have some level of value to get you a return.
The Fernando Tatis Jr. thing, again, as mentioned before, Padres officials repeated all week, Tatis is not going anywhere. They've said it all over the place at the winter meetings. AJ Preller, and we know AJ's never going to say, never on anybody. But the closest thing he has gotten to saying never has been Fernando. And it goes, if you want to say it's untouchable, then say it. And then he goes, Dennis doesn't like that untouchable word, but he's pretty much as close to untouchable as you could possibly be on the Padres. And I think Jackson Merrill's probably a part of that too, even though AJ Preller hasn't said anything really about Jackson Merrill. But he didn't use the word untouchable, but he said he's somebody we're not talking about. He went on to say that it doesn't take away from the fact that teams are going to still make phone calls about Fernando. And he laid it out in that clip. We played it a couple times yesterday, but he laid out in the clip from the scrum that most of these conversations go, you interested in trading Fernando? Well, if you are, we're here. And then they get to brass tacks of what is actually supposed to be getting discussed. So those are some of the things that we picked out that from that Kevin Acee article. But the same thing holds true, and this has been the biggest storyline going into the offseason, and I think you're going to have to be patient about it. Padres still expect to add starting pitching, but are they more likely to add it closer to spring training? We'll discuss that next on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego Summer Sports Station 97.3. Braden Surprenant Show on a Thursday. Coming up at 1:35, Brent Brennan, the head football coach of the Arizona Wildcats, will be coming here for the Holiday Bowl. Will join the show. Get a little preview of the Holiday Bowl as they take on SMU. Should be a good matchup between Arizona and SMU in the Holiday Bowl. That will be on January 2nd. It's the latest ever had the Holiday Bowl. It'll be on a Friday. It'll be at 5 o'clock. It'll be on Fox with the main Fox broadcast. Should be fun to get some college football here in town. Back in action. San Diego State will be playing in the New Mexico Bowl against a really good North Texas team. Shout out to Demetrius Sumler, who's been named the defensive coordinator in the interim because of the fact that the defensive coordinator for San Diego State has moved on now to Nebraska and some other things. But Demetrius Sumler, a Uni alum, able to get an opportunity to be the DC. They said apparently it's basically his interview. Not a bad interview to have. Trying to shut down one of the better offenses in college football, although Tulane did that to clinch a spot into the college football playoff. We're going to talk more Padres baseball here. We're going to take a quick dive into the Michigan situation, too, in the next segment. I mean, that was wild yesterday. I mean, that was wild yesterday. So there's a lot to unpack on there. I do have to find the biggest fan because we have yesterday's biggest fan.
Oh yeah.
On the sheet. I got it here. Let's see if I can pull it up on my email. Nope, that's from Adam talking about Spiros. Because today now is the time for the biggest fan. Let me pull up the grid real quick, and we'll announce today's biggest fan. What's today? There it is. Today's biggest fan, Fred McCowan of San Diego. Fred McCowan of San Diego, you are today's biggest fan. Congratulations. Give us a call within the next 10 minutes at 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973, and you'll qualify for our grand prize. 20 tickets for you and your friends for a night in our Odyssey Suite at a Padres game with all the fan staff later this season, catered by Spiro's Mediterranean Cuisine. Remember to register your name at 97tothefansd.com/biggest fan. Fred McCowan of San Diego. You got 10 minutes to give us a call. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. You are today's biggest fan. Give us a call. Qualify. Come on. All right. Let's get back to some of the Padres stuff that I wanted to discuss before we talk about the craziness that is what is going on in Michigan right now. And then later on, we'll have Arizona's head coach, Brent Brennan, on to discuss the Arizona Wildcats, what to expect from Arizona when they come to town for the Holiday Bowl. Yeah, that Michigan stuff. We got the news of that firing at the end of our show. Gwen and Chris got to talk about it at the beginning part of their show. But all of the information just kept coming out. I mean, at the beginning, it's like, oh, here's another funny scandal with memes. And then you're like, oh, this thing got really serious very fast. Got super fast. And then it started to get like just sad. I mean, that is just a wild story. And a wild story in college football. We'll talk about that in the next segment. I mean, there's just so much information out there. And I was like, we were talking off air about it, Adam and I, and it was like, I was trying to I'm trying to figure out my travel plans and all that stuff while on a plane, looking at the news of everything that's going on with Sheronne Moore. It just kept getting more and more intense. And here's the other thing too, with this day and age of like social media, I mean, you're constantly trying to see if any of these guys are like legit journalists because there's so much other information out there that is just what did he do this? Did he actually do this? Crazy. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. All right, last couple things with the Padres here. According to Kevin Acey's article, they talked about the starting pitching situation. I think everybody knows that the Padres' biggest need right now is starting pitching. It is starting pitching. There's no disagreement on that. I think, and we like to disagree. We as fans all disagree all the time about everything. In fact, just in general, this is why it's hard to get votes passed for certain things. You couldn't even get everybody in this county to agree that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. But a thing that I think a lot of Padres fans agree on, in fact, probably almost everybody agrees on, is the Padres need starting pitching. They need it in a bad way. Nick Pivetta is only under contract for maybe one more year, depending on if he takes the opt-out or not. If he doesn't take the opt-out, that means he probably didn't have a very good year. So you really don't want him back anyway. If he has a good year, he's gone because he'll be outplaying what he's expected to get. Look at the other starting pitchers. Yu Darvish is out for the year anyway. There's no real guarantee that he's going to come back and be effective at his age, coming off of a UCL injury. You have Joe Musgrove coming back from Tommy John surgery. He is going to be ready to throw. He was ready to gear up for near the end of the playoffs. If the Padres made it that far, he was willing to give his all for the team. But even then, you don't know what Joe Musgrove's going to be like when the adrenaline starts to run. He gets back into Major League Baseball and in a regular season Major League Baseball game. You're not going to know about it. You're not going to know until it happens. Got guys like Randy Vasquez. How does he do in another year of development at the Major League level? What do you do with Matt Waldron? Is Johnny Brito going to factor in? He's coming off of an arm injury from a year ago. I mean, these are all major question marks. You don't have enough to fill it out. I mean, Kyle Hart, is he going to be a starter? Are you going to use him in the bullpen? He looked pretty good out of the bullpen. He showed bright spots in the starting rotation. I can't imagine him being penciled in to the starting rotation for the beginning of the season. You also have J.P. Sears. I mean, that was an experiment that nobody really wanted to continue to conduct at the end of the year. I think it might be interesting during the spring training season. Maybe they have something to work with there. But at the end of the day, starting pitching is the most important thing the Padres need to address during the offseason. We all know it. And as I was talking about in the last segment about the situation at hand with how the regular season progressed, I don't know how many round tables we were on where everybody knew what the problems were with the Padres. They got to get something out of the catching position. They got to get something out of the bottom half of the order. Everybody knows what the problems are. Why don't they make a trade? It takes a little bit of time. And the thing is eventually they do get their guy. Well, let's talk about starting pitching from the standpoint of acquiring starting pitching. As noted by Kevin Acey in his article, A.J. Preller, in one of these scrums, pointed out to years past of pitchers and guys that have pitched in the Padres organization who were added super late. Sean Manaea in a trade at the beginning of 2022. Michael Wacha signed beginning of 2023, near the end of the offseason. I mean, Sean Manaea made most of his outings for spring training with the Athletics before the Padres acquired him. Michael Wacha signed as they got to camp. Dylan Cease was traded for as they were flying to Korea to take on the Dodgers for regular season games. Who was that? I forget the was it Johnson? Who was the Steven? What was the pitcher that they gave? It wasn't Pierce Johnson. Steven Wilson they got taken off the plane to fly to Chicago instead of fly to Korea. That's how late in the year that trade was. Nick Pivetta signed at the beginning of spring training. I mean, you've seen the Padres make moves like that. This wasn't starting pitching, but they acquired Craig Kimbrell 2 days before they took on the Dodgers for opening day in whatever year that was. So there is a time frame that I think a lot of people want to see the Padres operate in, and there's a time frame that the Padres will actually operate in. A.J. Preller believes the value will come late when it comes to a lot of these moves. And here's the thing. You're trying to find value right now if you're the San Diego Padres because you don't have that much to work with when it comes to adding to the payroll, when it comes to budget, when it comes to other avenues to acquire talent via trade. And the closer you get to the season, the more value you can find on the market as free agents for players that haven't signed yet, or on the market for potential trades that other teams want to make different deals for. So the starting pitching market is going to be, to me, I think, the part that takes the longest to happen. The internal philosophy for the Padres after the winter meetings, for the winter meetings, what their philosophy was during the winter meetings, get a feel for the market, what we can do payroll rise. They assign value to players, and if the market lines up, they jump on it. If not, they wait sometimes deep into spring. And you know what the Padres have done very well? Getting players or trades at their price point. These are the players that you hit on before, right? The Donovan Solanas of the world. The Michael Wakas. The, kind of Seth Lugos. The David Peraltas. Right? I mean, these are the players, the Nick Pavettas. These are the players that you get at a bargain, or it seems like a bargain, and you get a lot of value out of them, and then they hit. I mean, like a Gavin Sheets. It's a major value there. They're going to get these guys at the price points that they want. Maybe a lot of us fans are tired of the process of how they get some of these players, and everybody wants things now, but it's going to take some time during the offseason. And I think they laid the groundwork during the winter meetings. Padres need 2 starting pitchers. They need a first baseman, a DH bat. We're going to be here giving you updates throughout the rest of December and through January until some of those happen. But there's a lot of other stuff going on in sports too. And that Sheronne Moore stuff from yesterday was crazy. If you missed any of it or you don't have social media, we're going to tell you what happened in college football yesterday at the University of Michigan. And it's a doozy. We'll talk about that next on the Braden Surprenant Show. Standing as number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 6:18 on a Thursday. We had a lot of stuff go down in college football yesterday. Just a lot go down in college football yesterday. Hang on. The YouTube is a little jacked. And it leads to this, the coaching carousel and everything like that. But if you are just tuning in and you missed it or you don't have social media, here's what happened yesterday in college football with Michigan. And the thing was, it was like the rumors were going around back to October of Sheronne Moore and this affair that he had with one of the staffers. So what happened yesterday, Michigan fired head football coach Sheronne Moore, citing, quote, inappropriate relationship with a staff member. Later that same day, Moore was detained by Saline police, transferred to Pittsfield Township authorities, and ultimately booked into county jail. Me pronouncing city names and county names in Michigan is not going to go over well. It moved extremely fast. It was a firing, and then it was arrest within hours. And new evidence was coming up, very significant and urgent. Pittsfield Township Police responded at 4:10, whatever time zone Michigan's in, to the 3000th block of Ann Arbor Saline Road for an alleged assault. A suspect was taken into custody and lodged in jail pending charges. Police said the incident, quote, was not random and there was no ongoing threat to the community. Police statements naming no suspect, but Saline police openly stated they detained Sheronne Moore and handed him over, indicating very serious allegations beyond the university HR violation. That got Moore fired yesterday. Michigan said, quote, credible evidence showed Moore had an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. The school had previously investigated the claim in the fall, but did not have proof at the time, is what the report says. Michigan's in the Eastern time zone. Thanks, Jake. New information surfaced Wednesday that the school described as, quote, overwhelming. Moore's firing is immediate with cause, meaning no buyout money. And the timing of this is suggesting, obviously, new evidence came down or they got told some new information that they didn't apparently investigate the first time. Moore is 39 years old. He's been the Michigan head coach for 2 seasons. He was the former Michigan offensive coordinator, rose quickly after Jim Harbaugh's departure, now faces potential criminal charges and career-ending personal scandal. And this is everything that we know. He was fired immediately for inappropriate relationship for the staffer. He was arrested hours later for suspected assault. Police describe it as not random, implies a personal connection. Charges pending prosecutor review. University says new evidence was, quote, overwhelming. They do not know yet, at least in that report. There's been other reports. At the time when this was written, they didn't know about the nature of the alleged assault, whether the victim is the same staff member referenced by the university, whether additional charges are coming. That was from the last report from ESPN. I think that has been confirmed since then. But from an interesting note from CBS Sports today, quote, this was the worst kept secret, one industry source told CBS Sports, echoing the sentiment of several others who said rumors of Moore's misconduct with the staff member had been rampant well before the termination became official. Quote, we've heard about it a while ago, one agent said, just didn't think it was actually going to happen since we're all the way through the cycle now. A high-level Michigan booster told CBS Sports that Moore's conduct had been widely known inside the building. Quote, everybody in the program has known this the last 2 seasons, the booster said, adding that Schembechler Hall was swarming with lawyers earlier this month. There's going to be a lot more information on this. I mean, this has a dateline and a true crime written all over it with what happened after this entire investigation. There was an OnlyFans model that tweeted out that she was not surprised about this information because of how many times that he had been in her DMs. And as everything unfolded on social media, it just got worse and worse. But it's one thing to face the scandal and maybe be able to overcome it later on down the road. But then he went full crash out yesterday, and this thing got serious very quickly. And what a fall from grace it has been for Coach Moore at Michigan. Now, there's a lot of details that need to be hashed out. There's going to be more information coming out on this. But this was a wild story from yesterday of the actions that he had and the actions that he committed that had led him to where he is at right now, Frank.
Yeah, I mean it's absolutely insane. And one of the reports that I read was that there was a closed door meeting about him getting fired that Moore caught wind of, and that's when what happened after that happened. So it wasn't like he found out and then what happened after happened. He learned about something that he shouldn't have, and everything that followed. But it's just an amazing situation. Like we discussed it yesterday, is that you can, and it's been proven before, you can overcome a scandal to get back into coaching. You can't overcome what the reports of the aftermath are. That is his coaching career over. And that is the bare minimum of his worries if what was rumored to have happened is true.
Here's a report. Here's a report to kind of add on to that, Frank, and a different avenue. This came down an hour ago from Nicole Arbach. Michigan had been alerted prior to Wednesday that Sheronne Moore was dealing with mental health issues, yet Ward Manuel fired him alone with no HR rep and no security present, sources told NBC Sports. I mean, you are now at a position now with all the scandals that have happened in Michigan. How long is that athletic director going to be employed at this point in time? I mean, this needs to be a complete clearing of house in the Michigan athletic department with everything that's gone on over the last 3, 4, 5 years.
And that's just to save a modicum of face for this school. I mean, it's Michigan, so they'll find people and they'll find a way to climb the mountain again. But how this is not a penalty to the school, whether it's levied by the NCAA or not, akin to what USC saw. I mean, USC still has not recovered from their issues 20 years ago. So I don't see how Michigan can get away with something lighter than that.
There's going to be more information on this. There's going to be more information coming out. There's going to be a lot more to discuss when it comes to this entire thing. I mean, there's different avenues to look at this. There's different angles to look at this. You know, we are the show that probably talks the most about college football. And you know, we had a lot of Padres stuff to get to, but today was yesterday was just crazy seeing it unfold in real time. I mean, I was getting memes sent to me all day. I was getting reports sent to me all day. I was getting so many things sent to me all day long about this particular subject from people here at work, from people from outside of work, from people. I mean, I work in a lot of different areas. I mean, it's crazy what had happened down the stretch after the entire thing about the firing of Sheronne Moore. And there's got to be more to this. But we got to get to break. We're going to be talking with the head football coach of Arizona, Brennan, who comes on to talk about the Arizona Wildcats coming to town to take on SMU in the Holiday Bowl. A little bit of a better college football story than what we just talked about. We'll get to Brennan when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, Standing Urban Sports Station 97.3 The Fan.
wanna tell you about this girl I love.
Catch the name that Adam said, but Bryce Underwood, and talking about his camp. He was. We got like $12 million to go to Michigan, right? You know what the deal was? Something like that. Allegedly, $12 million. I mean, everybody always has different number values with NIL, but it's funny. Like Adam just read a tweet about like, oh, his camp's looking to go elsewhere or something like that. And the thing that stood out to him was like his camp. Everybody's got like a camp now. Everybody has like the feelers they put out.
Yeah, we went through that a couple weeks ago with Sam Levitt.
Yeah,
we were talking about him leaving Arizona State. His camp shopping him.
Shopping.
Well, the other thing is just the idea that we don't know the exact number of how much money he made or was paid to go to Michigan, but somebody paid him a ton of money to go to Michigan, and now he might leave. And that's what Troy Aikman was upset about earlier this week.
It's crazy like that with NIL and everything like that. But with college football, you got the bowl game system and bowl games here in town. One in particular, the Trust and Will Holiday Bowl, will be played by the Arizona Wildcats and the SMU Mustangs on January 2nd at 5 o'clock on Fox. Should be a fun time here in town. And joining us now, the head football coach of the Arizona Wildcats, who has had a great season this year in year 2 at the helm of Arizona, going 9-3, winning the Territorial Cup, finishing pretty good in the Big 12 standings. They get a reward of coming to the Holiday Bowl. His name is Brennan. He joins me on the Braden Surprenant Show. Coach Brennan, how you doing? Welcome to the Braden Surprenant Show. How's your Thursday going?
It's going great. Good to be on. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on, Coach. I spent some time at the University of Arizona before eventually getting my degree at TCU. My mom is an Arizona Wildcat. I grew up watching Arizona football and basketball for a long time, so it is a great privilege to have you on the show. It's a great privilege to have you in town. How are you? How excited are you and the team to come out to Southern California and in San Diego, where you got a lot of alumni here in town to play in the Holiday Bowl?
Yeah, absolutely. We're so excited when the Holiday Bowl became an option. You know, we were extremely hopeful that we would get a chance to come out there. Obviously, myself and a lot of our coaching staff, a lot of our roster is from California, and so we have a lot of kids that are excited to kind of go back home, back to Southern California, play in front of their family and friends, and then like you mentioned, with so many Arizona alums, living there in San Diego and just, in the state of California, we're excited about what that turnout's going to look like on game day.
Should be a fun time at Snapdragon Stadium. The Arizona Wildcats were here not too long ago to play at Snapdragon Stadium, right before you became the head coach when they played San Diego State. But, Southern California is a big hotbed for recruiting. Obviously, with you being able to come out here for a week or so, it's probably a lot easier for recruiting, at least get the brand out there in Southern California. With the system of the bowl games kind of going in a different direction, everybody's focused on the playoff. What are some of the big benefits of playing these bowl games and playing in hot recruiting areas for your program?
Well, I think the whole bowl experience is awesome for your program and your fans and your university. Like you mentioned, just getting the brand out there and flying the colors. Also, for our team, it's also a lot of extra practice, right? So you kind of essentially get some version of an extra spring practice, and it's a really great opportunity to kind of work on the development of some of your young players. And so, I think it's really beneficial. It's also great for these young men for a lot of them, there's lots of guys on our team that also haven't been to San Diego. So they get to experience another part of the country. They get to experience another, all the culture there and just like how diverse the population is. I think it's going to be really, really cool.
They're coming out of the Big 12. It's the second season in the Big 12 for the Arizona Wildcats, making that transition from the Pac-12. What's the experience been like for you coaching in the Big 12? What's the league like? And how do you think the league has represented so far this year in college football?
The league is really tough, man. It is it's an extremely deep conference. The Big 12 is, and it's one of those leagues where every week you show up, you better bring it, or you're going to get your ass kicked. And it is a really, really well coached league with a lot of talent. So it's been every week is a battle. Every week is a battle, but it's been a lot of fun too. I love how our team has responded this season in our second year in the league, and just found ways to close out games and finish games. And so it's been a special group of kids working their tails off and then having a great season, on the backside of that.
We're talking with head coach Brent Brennan, who joins us on the Braden Surprenant show. He coaches the Arizona Wildcats. They'll be in town for the Holiday Bowl, the Trust and Will Holiday Bowl. They'll be taking on SMU on January 2nd on Fox. It's going to be a Friday night game here in town, a little bit of a later start or later in the year than we're usually used to in the Holiday Bowl. But, a lot of local ties as well. You got a couple of players on your team that are from San Diego. Of course, Chuck Cecil, big Helix Highlander, part of your staff as well, longtime Arizona Wildcat. It's going to be nice for a lot of those guys to have a homecoming, as we mentioned, but to mention other Southern California athletes, it's been a big place for your guys' success, especially with your quarterback, Noah Fafita, coming out of Servite.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Chuck. Obviously, Coach Cecil is a legend, and everybody that has any connection to the University of Arizona always wants to meet Chuck Cecil. Like he's he's like walking into an event with Michael Jackson. Like the crowd just goes crazy, and it's awesome. But Brandon Sanders on the staff too, and he's another Helix High guy. Was a great player here. And then you mentioned Noah Fafita, just a great young man. Obviously was a great player at Servite High School there in Orange County, and just has been brilliant for us. First team all conference quarterback this year, and which is exciting for us because we haven't had a first team all conference quarterback in a long time. And he just gets better. The more he plays, the better he gets, and he really is just this awesome leader and really high level person for our program.
You're not familiar with the Holiday Bowl. It's not your first time coming out to San Diego for the Holiday Bowl. I know you spent some time, obviously, coaching throughout the Mountain West. Got to become as an opponent multiple times at San Diego State, but you were a grad assistant at the Holiday Bowl back in 1998. You got any fun stories about being at the Holiday Bowl earlier in your career?
Yeah, I was actually there twice. I was there as a graduate assistant with Washington, and then my brother played in the game for Arizona. They played Nebraska in an awesome football game there, and I think that was the '98 one. So I got to be a fan, and that was in the old, I think it was the Murph then. I don't even think it was Qualcomm yet, but maybe it was. But anyways, I have coached in a couple games at Snapdragon. It's a great facility, beautiful stadium. They did a great job with it. So we're excited to get down there, and we know that, the Arizona faithful are going to pack that thing.
You got SMU in this game. SMU has played a couple of Big 12 schools this season, in Baylor and TCU. They lost both of those games. What does SMU present? I mean, obviously they had a nice little turnaround in ACC play. What are you expecting to get out of the Mustangs as your opponent coming up on January 2nd?
Well, I think it's cool. I think the people of San Diego got a great matchup for a bowl game coming out there. And if the ticket sales are any indication, the first day ticket sales were the biggest or the largest in 10 years. So I think people are really excited about this matchup. Obviously, both of our schools travel really well. Football is important at both places. And, SMU a year ago was a playoff team. And so their head coach is really, really good. And they've got talent, and they play hard. They play fast. They're explosive on offense. They got some huge dudes on their defensive line. So this is a big time opponent for us. And, good news is we got we've got a few weeks of practice here to put together a plan and something hopefully that gives us a chance to go out there and play our best football this season.
You obviously had a lot of ties to Arizona before you became the head coach, starting your coaching career under Dick Tomey. You had family ties, as you mentioned, your brother playing at University of Arizona. You're now trying to put your own stamp for the family and friends at the University of Arizona. As you prepare for the bowl game coming up on January 2nd, what does this season represent in terms of the long-term foundation you're building out there in Tucson?
Well, I think it's been a great thing for us. I think coming into the season, people didn't expect much of this team, but the players and our coaching staff, we really believe that we could do something special. And we feel great about, the couple of games we lost to BYU in double overtime. We lost on a last-second field goal on the road at Houston. Both of those were good football teams this year in college football. And so we really feel like we've built a really good foundation. I've got a great coaching staff, great coordinators. That part of it has been really good. Our athletics director, Desiree Reed-Francois, has been great. And so we have really good alignment here. And so I think this is one of those deals where we want to build on the momentum of this season. We just had a really good recruiting class, actually the second highest ranked recruiting class we've ever had at Arizona. So there's a ton of momentum with this program. And we're just going to keep building and keep moving the right direction, I think, with this thing. And hopefully we can continue to play high-level football and eventually get ourselves in the college football playoff. I mean, that's what everybody wants to do.
That's the goal for everybody, Coach. Love to have that that mindset. Obviously, as a coach here in town at Cathedral Catholic, got to give a shout out to my boy Tate Haynes out there on your guys' team. I know he's coming back for a homecoming, so we appreciate your time, Coach Brennan. Look forward to seeing you when you come out here for the Holiday Bowl against SMU. Thanks again.
Appreciate it. Bear down.
Brent Brennan, head football coach of the Arizona Wildcats, joining us today on the Braden Surprenant Show. Always great to talk with some of the local, some of the college coaches out there. And again, a couple of good San Diego players part of this deal. With Arizona, I know we got a big Arizona alumni base as well. So it's cool to see. I think the Holiday Bowl is going to be a good matchup. I really do. I think it's a pretty good game. Looking forward to a game on a Friday in January. Start the new year off right, Frank. And good to hear from Coach Brennan for joining us today. Thanks again.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun game for sure. And I mean, last year's was a little bit of a snoozer with Syracuse blowing Washington State out by as much as they did.
Well, Washington State had their practice squad out there and no coaching.
That true as well.
And I think Butch the Cougar played in that game.
Yeah. Probably. Was Wilbur Wildcat in chat for that? Or no?
I didn't see Wilbur in the chat, nor Wilma. So I don't know. He missed out, I guess, Frank.
But it'll be a very, very good game. I'm very excited to see that game. I did see some bowl news. The LA Bowl is going away. I saw that earlier today.
I'm not super surprised by that. I mean, it's a tough time to be a bowl game right now, and it's tough. It's tough sledding for bowl games. I mean, you come down to it. Obviously, like Brennan said, like it's great for they get the extra practices, they get to go to a place they haven't been before. Like the kids, a lot of the kids that aren't going to be playing at the next level do have fun on the trips. I've been a part of multiple bowl trips. I've been a part of 3 bowl trips now: the Peach Bowl, the Alamo Bowl, and the Liberty Bowl, all as a member of a staff, student staff, whatever. So I got to experience it from a kid perspective. It is pretty fun. I mean, you usually miss Christmas with your family for it, or you have to go around it. So that's kind of difficult. The bowl game, I think in general was a great idea, but I just feel like certain bowl games have to start making some adjustments to survive in this day and age of college football, and the day and age of expanding the college football playoff, Frank.
Yeah, this was tweeted out 6 hours ago by Yahoo Sports per Brett McMurphy. Saturday's Washington-Boise State game will mark the last LA Bowl. The Bowl's 6-year deal ends this year with the Pac-12's collapse during realignment, ultimately shutting it down. So the LA Bowl will be no more.
It's going to be interesting to see some of the bowl tie-ins now in college football with – I think most of them are done at the end of the year, if we've talked about it enough with Mark Neville. And so next year is going to be a different Holiday Bowl. You're going to have different conferences. And it sounds like every conference wants to be part of the Holiday Bowl. I think you're going to get to a point where the bowl games are cut in half and there's only a handful of bowl games that are around for marquee matchups. And it makes it a bigger deal for certain teams that don't make the college football playoff to be in a bowl game. But I think the Holiday Bowl is probably one of those traditional bowl games that might stick around for this because it's tough to pass up San Diego. Plus, the payouts are great. I mean, the Holiday Bowl does everything right, and I think a lot of schools like being part of the Trust and Will Holiday Bowl. But it's something that a lot of bowl committees have to assess and address when it comes to what is our future in this climate of college football really going to trying to find a true champion in their sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's work in progress as we can currently see. And we're going to see bowl games going away and possibly some new ones taking their place, especially with a lot of these contracts coming up. There may be somebody to come in and fill that spot that the LA Bowl is going to leave. It'd be nice to see the Poinsettia Bowl return, have 2 bowl games in San Diego. But that's some more bowl news coming out.
Did you see the Adam sent it to me today, but I got it earlier too on the Notre Dame. I mean, talk about a crash
Yahoo
out that
Sports
Notre
stuff.
Dame has
Yep.
had. Yeah, from Dan Wolken.
Yep.
From Yahoo Sports, after learning of Notre Dame's memorandum of understanding that grants the Irish preferential playoff access starting next year, athletic directors in other leagues are threatening to freeze Notre Dame out of future schedules per Dan Wolken.
Well, this goes to the whole play stupid games, win stupid prizes thing, that they overshot their crash out by a lottle, and now now things are coming out that they probably didn't want to get out, and they're going to be seeing the penalty for it.
I mean, we talked about it yesterday of like Notre Dame and what they think they are compared to what they have been with the TV ratings.
Exactly. Yep.
They're getting $50 million a year just from NBC alone.
Yeah.
Right. On this TV deal, they don't have to share with anybody. And it's always like take our ball and go home kind of attitude. Well, we're Notre Dame and we're Notre Dame and we're Notre Dame. And they don't want to give up the benefits of being the independent of that lucrative TV contract, but they complain that they can't get into the college football playoffs. Like, well, we went 10-2. It's you don't play anybody good, and they're not the same team that they used to be
this year.
Right.
I mean, there are plenty of good teams that went 10-2 this year that aren't even getting looked at because they're in lower conferences. It's like we've said, they want to stay as an independent, as an excuse to play the worst that the Big Ten and the ACC have to offer every single year, and then hide behind it's a legacy game for us. No, stop it. Just join one of the conferences. You play more ACC opponents. Just join the ACC. Now we've seen how.
Oh, they're not going to do that anymore.
Yeah, well, join the Big Ten then. That's where your other legacy games are.
Big Ten wants them to be a full participant and take some of the money. I don't think they want. They're not holding on to that. How about the Big 12? How about Brett Yormark calling Bavacqua behavior egregious and out of bounds? I mean, Notre Dame's entire arrogant, elitist attitude that they displayed after not being included in the college football playoff has basically alienated them from every conference right now.
There is one conference that, because we know they'll never join the SEC. They're too afraid to play anyone good. Pac-12.
Oh yeah, there you
go. That's the one conference
the Power Act
not
12.
Alienated. Yes, exactly. Power Act 12. Notre Dame, get on it.
A lot of ESPN personalities were turning on Notre Dame, too. Did you see what Stephen A. Smith said? He called Vacqua is becoming, quote, more embarrassing by the day. It needs the zip it. Mike Greenberg, who was once a defender of Notre Dame and Bavacqua, bailed after Bavacqua claimed Notre Dame had, quote, one of the most dominant 10-game runs in the history of college football.
Sake, dude, really?
That was the funniest quote that I got out of any college football, out of any of the Notre Dame nonsense. The funniest thing that I got was, this is the best 10-game run out of anybody in college football. In the history of college football, the best 10-game run by beating Purdue, Arkansas, Boise State, NC State, USC, Boston College, Navy, Pitt, Syracuse, and Stanford. Nobody has gone on a 10-game run like Notre Dame in the history of college football.
You know what? I will give you that if you give me the fact that I went on the best 10-block run in Salt Lake City airport history. Like that was, I was moving. And
we got to try to put in a request for the security cameras of you booking it into the airport from one side to the other.
Adam, can you please make time go faster so I can hoof it back to the hotel so I can go to bed because I'm really like it is this last hour is like everything. I haven't slept since like 5 o'clock yesterday morning. I haven't eaten since 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon. I'm
Go get a crab cake, dude. Go get a crab cake at the new bar. It's called Alonzo's. I think you just walked by behind you too. Go check out all the new billboards. He's already doing advertisements in Baltimore.
So much.
Hey, Birdland. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. Gwen and Chris coming up next. We're going to have our Radio Row show from the Army Navy game tomorrow. Look forward to that. A lot of great guests joining us. We'll talk with you tomorrow on the show.